Good morning, everyone. Can we have a good morning from all our students? You had breakfast, right? Good morning. That doesn't say you have been on the beach, you have done yoga, so you should be more enthusiastic, right? How was it on the beach today? Was it good? You had a nice time? Okay. So we'll be beginning today's event, and it's a hybrid event that we are having for the first time here now. Anyway, this is the difficulty when you have a hybrid event. You will have to go through a few of these moments, but normally we have a live event or we have online. So this time we are having today as a hybrid event. Primarily, all our speakers will be live, so you'll see them in flesh and blood. And two of our guests for the inauguration will be coming online. So we are running a little late because we had to manage a lot of stuff today from the morning. But before we begin officially, I think it would be a good way to invoke Lord Vigneshwara, Lord Ganesha, because he takes care of all the obstacles. So I request Yogacharini Devasana Bhavanani to sing one song for Lord Ganesha, and then we'll begin with the official welcome and other things.
Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Guru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Om Mahaganapatim Shri Mahaganapatim Manasa Smarami Mahaganapatim Manasa Smarami Mahaganapatim Manasa Smarami Mahaganapatim Vasishtavama Devati Vandita Mahaganapatim Vasishtavama Devati Vandita Mahaganapatim Manasa Smarami Vasishtavama Devati Vandita Mahaganapatim. Mahadeva Sutam Mahadeva Sutam Mahadeva Sutam Guru Guganutam Mahadeva Sutam Guru Guganutam Marakoti Prakasham Chantam Mahadeva Sutam Guru Guganutam Marakoti Prakasham Shantam Mahakavinadagadi Priyam Mahakavinadagadi Priyam Mushika Vahana Modaha Priyam Mahakavinadagadi Priyam Mushika Vahana Modaha Priyam Papa Magamari Sari Sani Sapa Magamapa Dani Sari Magamari Sani Sani Pama Sani Pamagamaris Mahaganapatim Manasa Smarami Vasishtavama Devati Vandita Mahaganapatim.
Thank you very much, Devasana Bhavanani. We will now officially begin this morning, and I request everyone to take up a aligned seated posture where your spine can be aligned We are in chairs and on sofas and other places, but as aligned as we can be within the constraints of modern seating. Let your eyes be closed and begin to let the mind go inward. Begin to follow your breath as it comes in and goes out. Let us be in the present moment where we are. Let us be. Yoga is all about being, and let us be where we are in the present moment. Tadganeshaya vidmahe vakratundaya dhimahi tanno dhanti prachodayate om. Om Tatparamparyaya vidmahe jnanalingeshwaraya dhimahi tanno guruh prachodayate om. Om yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarotam pravaram muninam padanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all those who have joined us here in person and joined us online from around the world for this hybrid event that is an International Yoga Therapy Convention, SBV Yoga Mahotsav 2022, that has begun this morning with a spectacular demonstration of the common yoga protocol of the Ministry of Ayush by more than 300 students at the Pondicherry Promenade, a heritage site of Pondicherry with the Gandhi statue that is representative of Pondicherry itself. We have with us eminent speakers today in person, and it is a great honor to have with us one of the most eminent yogis of modern India, Yogacharya Sridharan sir. We welcome you, sir, and we welcome Madam, both of you who have come. As I told them this morning, whenever we worship God, we want God to be with his consort. Then only the blessings are double. So today we have double blessing today. And sir, you may not remember, but when we had the first event here at Saita, and Saita was inaugurated as Saita, it was before that a yoga therapy wing. Sir was the one who actually cut the ribbon and inaugurated Saita that day. So his association with Saita has gone back many years. And now we are on the cusp of a new development where we are being upgraded to an institute of complementary medicine and salutogenesis. And we owe it to the support of all the blessings of our great yogis, including our most dearest Sridharan sir. We have with us today as the first speaker, Nritya Jagannathan. And Nritya ji has been known many, many years. In fact, the first time I met her was when she had come for the International Yoga Festival with Lataka's daughter. And from that time to see the way she has taken things forward, and today is the director of the Institute of Yoga Studies at KYM. And I'll share a few anecdotes in a few moments before I welcome her to speak this morning. Such a pleasure to have you with us, Nritya ji. We have with us my dear Vinaij Chandraji, who has come all the way from Bangalore and taking the Indica yoga forward in such a dynamic manner that last year we felt we need to do something about the cultural ethos and yoga therapy. So the very theme of this year is strengthening the cultural ethos of yoga therapy so that it doesn't become, as my father said many decades ago, yoga therapy in the world today is physiotherapy with a dhoti on. So we have to be very careful that physiotherapy is respected as physiotherapy, yoga therapy is respected as yoga therapy. And I would like to sort of take a step forward that let's stop even calling it yoga therapy and go back to yoga chikitsa so that we retain that value also. It will take some time, but we will do it. So welcome you, Vinaij Chandraji, who's doing amazing work, and he will be speaking after Nrityaji today. And of course, from all the way from Bangalore, my dear Yogacharya Subbuji. And Subbu Bhaiya, he was with us this morning for the demonstration right in the second row next to the governor as madam was doing the yoga this morning. And always he's been here for so many of our events and recently was here for my 50th birthday also. And we had a wonderful time welcoming you. He has taken on new roles. He is in charge of running his own institution, the Adhyatma Yoga, and now taking it up with the Pyramid Trust and doing amazing work. In fact, he has an event coming up on 26th. So a lot of good things happening. And Subbu Bhaiya will be addressing us this afternoon on the Bhakti Yoga concept. And last but not least, my own better half, Devasena Bhavanani, who will be part of the panel this afternoon, where all our eminent guests are going to be deliberating. And if you have questions, please write them down. You can ask them at that time. All those hard questions, questions, you can ask them. And we have a nice panel discussion on this coming up. So we would like to begin by requesting Nrityaji to give the first talk of the day. A few words about her. She has trained in the Vedic chanting, and this is one of the strengths of the KYM, the Krishnamacharya tradition, as codified by the tradition. For those who don't know about it, has come down through the great Yogacharya, Krishnamacharya himself, and traces all the way back to the Nathamuni tradition and Vedanta Desika tradition and so many long-standing traditions. And she's also certified yoga therapist with the IAYT, so many other certifications. But I think one of the greatest blessings is to have been a student of Sri TKV Deshikacharya for so many years, because a Guru Shishya Parampara is the basis of the yoga tradition. There cannot be a yoga tradition without Guru Shishya Parampara, and that is why this is so vital. And as part of the Indian Yoga Association, she is doing a lot of work with our standing academic accreditation committees and other committees. And what also brings a very beautiful smile to me is that she is a Bharatanatyam dancer, teacher, and choreographer. Because, you know, one of our strengths has been the yoga and the dance coming together. And in recent times, during the pandemic, she has gone online a lot. And many of my own friends in the USA, especially Amy Wheeler, she is totally in love with you. And she just loves your teaching. Every week or so, there'll be a post on what a wonderful session they had with Nrityaji. And I think that is so important that the Western yoga teachers and therapists start to again learn from what is the root, and not just the roots of yoga, but the seeds of yoga. The seeds of yoga that are Sanatana, that are Nitya, and that are eternal. So I invite Nritya Jagannathan-ji to deliver her talk this morning. And it is a talk on the fundamentals of Sankhya and its relevance to yoga therapy. Sankhya, which is one of the sister concerns of our Indian culture, along with yoga. So yoga is one perspective. A sister perspective is Sankhya, and you are going to hear straight from Nritya ji about this. Welcome, ma'am. Please come.
That's it. Namaskaram. Good morning. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaah Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraah Sthirairangai Stushtuvagungsasthanubhih Vyashema Devahitayadayuh Swasti na Indro Vridhashravah Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedah Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspati'r dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Shri Krishna Vagishayati Shwarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankana Bhashya Saram Shrinut Narangendra Yatau Samarpitasvam Shri Krishna Maryam Guruvaryamide Virodhe Kartike Mase Shatatara Krutodayam Yogacharyam Krishna Maryam Guruvaryamaham Bhaje Krishna Suri Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanatharyam Vandeham Yogadeshikam Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Very good morning. My gratitude at the outset to Dr. Ananda for this invitation. I seek the blessings of my Acharya, Shri Sridharan sir, who is here. Technically, I should be speaking after him. I shouldn't speak before him, but since that is the order of the day, with his blessings, with Mami's blessings, I present my talk on the fundamentals of Sankhya. Now, to go into Sankhya itself is a subject that would require much time, but I will touch on certain essential ideas because this alone is the subject of an entire webinar. We must remember that Sankhya and Yoga share space along with the other Vaidika darshanas, and it is important to understand these fundamental roots in their context, even as we apply them to our present day living and living processes. See, when we come to certain fundamental principles, what does Sankhya have to tell us? Sankhya and Yoga, as Dr. Ananda said, are sister philosophies, very close, and Yoga borrows almost entirely the premise set by Sankhya. And what Sankhya has to tell us is that the world that we see, our universe essentially is one that is in a state of transformation by Prakriti. It's a transformation of Prakriti, which is the substratum. Prakriti itself is made up of Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas. These are the three Gunas. Now, when the three Gunas are at equilibrium, then Prakriti remains in a state of inertness where manifestation has not occurred. As the substratum, Mula Prakriti, prior to the activation of the Gunas, therefore remains in a position of equilibrium. Parallelly, you have Purusha, which is the self-luminous entity, the eternal consciousness, that which illumines Prakriti. If we had to translate it, though the translations don't always do justice, we can look at Purusha as soul and Prakriti as matter, or consciousness and matter, which need to come together for the genesis of the universe. And as per Sankhya, both Purusha and Prakriti, these are our fundamental points of origin, and both are Satya, both are eternally true, and they are Anadi. Now, because of some force that Sankhya presents as Adrishta, under the influence of Purusha, something happens to this equilibrium of Purusha and Prakriti. And so what happens is that because of that disturbance of that equilibrium, the process of creation, of manifestation begins. Just one moment, I'm just trying to show you this image. Yeah, I think you should be able to see it now. And so the three strands of Prakriti, Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas, start to intertwine. And it is in the intertwining of the three gunas that creation begins. Purusha and Prakriti necessarily have to come together. And no creation can happen in the absence of this conjunction. And one of the fundamental premises of Sankhya that yoga borrows is the Andappangunyaya, which is the analogy of the lame man seated on the shoulders of the blind man. They need to cooperate. The lame man here is the consciousness, which has the vision but cannot move of its own. The blind is the mind that serves the Purusha. These come together, right? And in their cooperation, you see there is creation. In their isolation, when Prakriti is separate from Purusha, the universe returns to its state of stasis, from where says is what is created is not coming out of nowhere. It has always existed, and the cyclical process of manifestation and dissolution will keep continuing. We have a reference in the Tattva Kaumudi which compares the limbs of a tortoise and says that whether the tortoise is stretching or retracting its limbs, the tortoise remains the tortoise. In the same way, the world at large, matter at large remains the same, but it manifests in different times in different ways because of the three gunas. And so it is the same substratum that constantly undergoes a process of transformation. And this is the causation theory that is known as the Satkaryavada, also the Parinama Vada in Sankhya. That is, you have the seed. It is that seed that grows into a plant, a tree, eventually flowers, fruits. And then again, when the tree dies, it returns to the soil, the cycle begins again. But the substratum for all aspects of creation is one. And that is the Mula Prakriti, which is empowered by the Purusha to manifest. Now, coming to the idea about the gunas, the entire Sankhyan premise builds on the role of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. What is guna? There are different meanings given. One that I am focusing on specifically in this context is thread or string. The word very so as quality or attribute, but essentially it is something that twines. It is a thread that comes together, and therefore in this coming together, it starts creating the entanglement of the three threads of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas bind Prakriti, making it take different forms. And so when it comes down to the human system, what are we? We are nothing but a fragment or a part of this macrocosmos. Now, what are the properties of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas? They are different from each other. Their nature is different, yet they cooperate. Sattva is associated with light, luminosity, shining, lucidity, lightness. These are attributes of Sattva. Any kind of a movement, activity associated with Rajas, and any inertia or stillness or heaviness is Tamas. And therefore, as an outcome, Sattva Guna leads to the experience of Sukha, Shanta, tranquility, experiences of joy. Rajas, when Rajas dominates, it leads to an experience of Dukkha or sorrow, and Tamas causes delusion. It blinds us. Now, while they are different from each other, they need to come together, and the analogy given in the Sankhya Karika is that of the oil lamp, where the three gunas are represented in the metaphor of the lamp itself. The flame is Sattva, and you see that the wick is associated with Rajas, the oil is Tamas, but they come together to create an entirely new entity, which is light. And so you see that while they are codependent, they cannot exist apart from each other. At the same time, they cannot exist in a vacuum. Together, they constitute Prakriti. What are we? We are nothing but Prakriti. This is one of the fundamental ideas we must repeatedly remember, that the human body is a micro universe. And everything in creation is just a small combination, one particular combination of these three gunas in a certain form at a certain time. And the dominance of each of these gunas may be less or so in different objects, as we will see. Now, this model of evolution is one that is essential for, I would say, every student of Sanatana Samskriti to understand, because it's one of the most composite, comprehensive models of evolution. There is Purusha, there is Prakriti. These are Alinga or Avyakta, unmanifest. With the stimulation of Prakriti as they come together, it creates the process of the change of the gunas. The evolutes are first Buddhi, cosmic intelligence, and then from the Buddhi, the Asmita. Due to paucity of time, I can't dwell too long on this, but this is a fundamental idea that we must all understand, that there is this intelligence that holds and sustains the universe. You can't, it's not definable, and yet that is the source. It is an intelligence that is innate in every cell, every part of creation. How does this earth stay the way it does? How do the planets stay their course without colliding with each other? What causes the creation of this universe? How do species develop into their different forms? All of this has its answer in this idea of the cosmic intelligence called Buddhi or Mahat. And from their identity, that there is, you could say, a larger blueprint, and then the smaller structures, animals, plants, different kinds of creatures, including the human. Now, coming to us, now looking at evolution of the world outside in us, at an outer level, out of this Asmita, the Tanmatras, the Pancha Tanmatras, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, and Gandhar emerged. And from the Tanmatras, the Pancha Bhuta. The Tanmatras are essential, you could say, the essential nature or attribute of the five elements. Now, within us, the Jnanendriyas, the five senses of perception, the five organs of action, Karmendriyas, and the mind, the Manas. These are also created. Now, remember that this is constantly, there is a dialogue between the outer and the inner, between the bhutas and the mind, body, senses. And therein lies the key to our approach with Yoga Chikitsa. And so when you look at the relationship between the elements and the gunas, Akasha, space, predominantly Satwa. All the three gunas are present in all of creation, but the dominance of Satwa is most in Akasha. Dominance of Tamas is most in the earth element. The other elements lie in between, with Vayu being mostly Satwa with Rajas, fire, combination of Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas, with that luminosity, being luminosity and heat becoming the central. Water with its fluidity, mobility, at the same time transparency, again shows you how the three gunas come together. Now, this macro-micro interface that is constantly playing out is responsible for how we experience our life. Good health, bad health, illness, wellness, all of this is highly dependent on the play, not just of the gunas, because the gunas are the substratum, but how they manifest is in the form of the elements. And this is also where Ayurveda takes off. So there are very strong connects between Ayurvedic principles of diagnosis and treatment and this model as well, because the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha doshas are also understood based on how they are derived from the elements. Now, coming to perception itself, what the Yoga Sutra tells us is that there is the Chit consciousness beyond the touch of the gunas. This is the Purusha, this is the Atma, this is that which dwells within. And then you have the world, Drashta and Drishyam, says the Yoga Sutra. You have the Chitta, made up of the mind, Manas, Asmita, Buddhi. The mind perceives through the five Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. It connects to the world outside. What is this world made of? Made of the five elements. So what is happening in this process of comprehension or cognition is that the mind moves outside. It follows the senses. The senses hold on to their respective objects. That information is communicated to the mind, received, processed, stored, retrieved, recollected. All this happens. Along with this, there is identity. What is this to me? Mine. This is me. This is mine. I am. These notions. Also the function of the buddhi, which determines what should I do. Now, this is an elaborate process. It happens in moments. It happens in literally fractions of seconds. Our comprehension is that fast. But this is the interface between the inner and the outer universe. Now, as far as Sankhya is concerned, when you look at Sankhya at a meta level, at a large scale level, it speaks of one consistent Prakriti, Mula Prakriti, infinite Purushas, change occurring in Prakriti. It is the change that leads to joys and sorrows, illness and wellness. And all this that happens in the domain of the mind is witnessed by the Purusha. The Purusha is the Bhokta, it is an experiencer. And the more the fluctuation of Rajas and Tamas, the more you find the shifts in mental state of wellness. Naturally, where Satwa dominates, it brings about a state of discernment, a state of clarity. And that leads eventually to Viveka. Viveka, from Viveka to Vairagya to Jnana to Kaivalyam. And that path is the path that we are very familiar with in yoga philosophy. This idea of Viveka is to come to a mind that is tranquil, that is composed, that is serene, and to be able to realize that what changes is only external, but what is unchanging, which is our source of Ananda, is within. And this understanding, it is this realization that finally leads to Kaivalyam, as the Yoga Sutra says. And so the whole drama, the entire drama of creation, sustenance, manifestation, dissolution by Prakriti is for the mind to acquire that Viveka. Where there is Viveka, as the Yoga Sutra says, Ashuddhikshaya Jnana Deeptihi Aviveka Khyate. When that Aviveka Khyati happens, then the next step is Kaivalyam. This Kaivalyam happens for the Purusha, for an individual Purusha. So this is that play between the individual and the universe. And then when does this end? When all the Purushas are liberated in this manner, through this sadhana, through this acquisition of clarity, of discernment, then the drama finishes, Prakriti withdraws. But until then, our journey continues. Now, coming to the connections, because we are speaking about what does all this have to do with Chikitsa, with Yoga Chikitsa specifically. Here, I must say that you can't separate Yoga Chikitsa from Ayurveda or other indigenous traditional systems of health and wellness. What we must understand is that the gunas that are pervading matter, the gunas that are the substratum of matter, are very well the same gunas that pervade our bodies, mind, senses, speech, everything. Where there is a dominance of Satwa, with Rajas and Tamas being regulated, there is good health, there is wellness. Where Rajas and Tamas take over and dominate, the outcome is illness. And that is your connection from Sankhya to Chikitsa. As the Sankhya Karika says, the nature of the three gunas, Satwa is Preeti, causes pleasure, causes delight. Rajas leads to displeasure, Apriti. Tamas is the cause of Vishada, pain. And therefore, the purpose of Satwa is illumination. Purpose of Rajas is activity. The purpose of Tamas is Niyama, restraining. You can't think of life without this. For me to speak here, to have some kind of a continuity from one word to the next, requires a dominance of, for you, requires a dominance of Satwa. At the same time, it's one thought to the next. And so there has to be Rajas, but the Rajas has to be controlled by Satwa, so that I'm not speaking about yoga in one breath and then I'm not speaking about idli, dosa, sambar in the next breath. There has to be that continuity, which is why Satwa needs to hold. Now you shouldn't fall asleep, neither should I fall asleep. Therefore, the Tamas, at the same time, I can't be walking up and down. I have to stay here because the mic is here. And therefore, the Tamas has to hold me in place, but not so much that you fall asleep. And so you see that the three gunas are constantly coming together to serve us for wellness. And that becomes our foundation. The balance of the three gunas, dominance of Satwa, becomes essential for us to fulfill our dharma. Shariram adhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. We are here to fulfill a dharma for which your body has to be healthy. It's not enough if the body is healthy, the mind has to be healthy. Everything has to function well. And for that, we need to understand this. And we find that the three gunas come together. They are constantly supporting and playing off each other. My teacher, Deskachar, would often give us this example of the three gunas competing. And he would say, think that there is this large arena, football ground, 18-foot wall. Outside, there are three spectators. Now, they can't get in. So they come to an agreement and they say, we'll stand on each other's shoulders. And whoever's on top can look in. But the problem is the one on top cannot stay on top. We have to keep rotating. And that is literally the agreement, because through the day, through different times, from dawn till we sleep, through the seasons, as the weather changes, Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas are constantly in change. They are in flux. Now, what can you do? We have to try to permit Satwa to be on top as much as possible. Because if Rajas and Tamas are on top, eventually they are counterproductive. They might be briefly helpful. So you want to achieve something, you have a goal, you have an exam to crack, you want to hit a top rank. Okay, you need Rajas. You need a certain status. You want to own so much money, wealth, property. Yes, you need it. But all of this has to be tempered with common sense, with some sensibility, some intelligence, which is why Sattva is needed. And so all our endeavors are to bring Sattva to the dominant state. So we see that the three gunas have an impact on the body. Sattva causes lagutvam, lightness of the body, at the same time, sharpness, acuity of the mind and senses. Rajas is what stimulates. It causes different urges and causes us to seek gratification. At the same time, it causes your mind to be very fickle, to waver. And this is why we say we have a monkey mind, because of the excessive Rajas. Tamas leads to heaviness, the sense of being weighed down at a physical level, and at a mental level, it can inhibit clarity. We also see that the three gunas that make up the elements are also, those elements are the ones that are further becoming the three doshas. So you have Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and reflect the essential qualities of the five elements. And that is why it is that interplay as well, that when the three doshas are in balance, then you are said to be in a state of wellness. Samadosha, samadhatu, samagni, malakriyaha, prasanna, atma, indriya, manaha, swastha, iti abhidiyate, says the Charaka Samhita. Who is a swastha is not just physical well-being. Everything has to be in order. Dosha, dhatu, agni, malakriya, prasanna, atma, indriya, manaha. So you have covered the entire gamut. But what is this made of? And all of these are the elements that are working in us. The elements in turn are made up of the three gunas. Further, the seven dhatus are associated with the Panchabhuta. The three types of malas are also associated with the Panchabhuta. This is just for your reference. Now, this model, I had spoken to you about the evolution of Prakriti. You have the Jnanendriyas, Karmendriya, the Tanmatra, and the Bhuta. Tanmatra and Bhuta, you see the Bhuta, the elements manifest outside. They have certain core potentials. Inside of us, you have the Jnanendriya and the Karmendriya. Now, this becomes very important in its application. When we coming to yoga therapy, I'd like you to see this connection. Shabda Tanmatra associated with space, because space is the element that transmits sound. But look at the connection to the Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. It is the ears and the throat that are connected to Shabda Tanmatra, connected to Akasha Bhuta. And so look at that connection. There is always this dialogue. You hear because sound travels through space. It also has to travel inside. There is a space within your ear that is making it possible for one to receive the sound. Similarly, Twak, the skin, is connected to the hands. The fingers are the most sensitive parts of our body for sparsha. That is the Tanmatra associated with wind, because wind is sensed. Come to the eyes. Vision is associated with the legs, because you can move only where you see. Now, this is for someone, you're assuming normal level of health. Everything is normal, right? I'm not bringing in any outliers here. If someone is blind by birth, then the other sense organs will compensate. But the connection between Chakshu, Pada, the movement, that is in turn connected to, very interestingly, Agni. If you look at Ayurveda, one of the essential points of diagnosis for eye disease is Pitta Prakopa. Pitta is an Agni function. So again, there is that connection. Another very beautiful connection is between Rasana and Apa as the Bhuta. Rasana is taste, associated with the genitals, associated with Rasa Tanmatra and water as the element. Now, Ayurveda tells us that the process of digestion, where does it start? It starts with rasa. Rasa is that fluid, the enzymes, the secretions of the body. That is the first of the dhatu. Rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, majja, shukra. The last is sperm and ovum. Where does it start? It starts with rasa dhatu. What is the end of the cycle of food metabolism? It is the creation of healthy sperm and healthy ovum, which leads to the generation of the next cycle. And so that connection is again very important. Ask yourself the question, why is there so much infertility? Why are these issues? Why are there infertility centers popping up everywhere in India? 10 years ago, you didn't have it. You trace it back to the lack of rasa in the food that you consume. It's something that is seriously to be addressed, because among everything, I think this has a very significant impact on not just our wellness, on our future as well, because we eat food that is old, cold, stale, dry, processed, all the nutrition, the essence is gone. Now, where is the question of food metabolism and essence of food being distilled to form healthy sperm and healthy ovum? And therefore, issues pertaining to procreation and so on. These are just certain connections I'm highlighting. Similarly, grana, the nose connected to the excretory organs, because again, very beautiful. The first point where digestion begins is not when you've tasted the food, it's when you've smelled the food. Because as you smell it, your liver is already signaled to start generating certain enzymes. The last is the excreta. And again, Malapariksha becomes extremely important in Ayurvedic diagnosis to understand what is happening in the entire process of food metabolism. So these connections you find in Sankhya that are borrowed by yoga, yoga chikitsa as well, essential for us to understand, because when you see that there is a problem in one or other of the Jnanendriya, immediately you must remember what is the connecting bhuta, what is the tanmatra, therefore what kind of a tool will work to alter the function of that indriya. So when you work backwards, this offers remarkable insight. Now remember that the impact of the gunas is not just physical, physiological, it's also mental, cognitive, emotional. And so you have the 5 bhumis of the mind, kshipta, moda, vikshipta, ekagrata, nirodha. As presented in Vyasa's commentary to the Yoga Sutra, the kshipta mind is a mind that is driven by rajas. It's a monkey mind. It just jumps about from thought to thought. The moodha mind is very, without being derogatory, the Indian buffalo mind will not move. That's all. Nothing can move it. The vikshipta mind is where we are. 100 thoughts. Sometimes there's a little bit of sattva, sometimes rajas, sometimes tamas, and we keep vacillating. The ekagrata mind is where our journey actually begins, and the whole purpose of yoga sadhana is to build that ekagrata, to develop that ekagrata, that ability to first pay attention, to do what you do with your mind present. Today we are in a time where your fingers, your hands are doing, you're shoveling food into your mouth, you have something, you have a phone in the hand, you might have the TV on, you might have music playing in the background. 1 hour later, someone asks you, what did you eat? You say, I don't remember. There is no yoga in this. There is no presence in this. So the purpose of the sadhana, first of all, is to bring awareness, because if you start being aware of what you're doing, that itself will contribute to overall health and wellness. Lastly, of course, is the state of nirodha, which will culminate in samadhi, eventually leading to kaivalya. Now, what the Yoga Sutra has to say is that there are 2 patterns of the mind. One is a vyuttha samskara, the other is nirodha. Vyutthana samskaras are based on, developed because of rajas and tamas dominating and alternating with sattva, where sattva does not get any grip at all. It's the rajas and tamas that keep taking over and driving. Nirodha samskara is based on a pattern of sattva dominance. What does it mean? It means you're able to see things as they are. You're able to assess a situation and take the right decision. If you take the right decision, the outcome is likely to be more beneficial to you than if you make a decision from a space of clouding. This is why Patanjali speaks about Klishtavritti and Aklishtavritti. Naturally, improper decisions taken in the heat of the moment, in anger, in depression, are unfortunate in terms of their consequences. Eventually, they lead to further suffering, which is why we have to do something to bring the mind to a state of sattva dominance. Therein lies also the key to yoga therapy. Further, again, I'm not elaborating. Ayurveda, this is for your information. Ayurveda actually gives you 16 personality types classified based on dominance of Satwa, Rajas, and Tamas. It's quite fascinating because every personality is named, and there are dominant personality types where Satwa becomes the dominant guna, how it impacts everything. So this idea, the 9th Sutra of chapter 3, Vyuthana Nirodha Samskara Yoho Abhibhava Pradurbhavo Nirodha Kshana Chittanvayo Nirodha Parinamaha. Patanjali tells us at the moment where Nirodha dominates, that state of attention dominates in your mind, it pervades the body. Chittanvayo, it spreads beyond the mind. What he's not telling us is that if Vyuthana dominates, it will be Vyuthana Parinamaha. It will turn the other way. Today we have a term for this. We say psychosomatic response. And somatopsychosis also. You have the other way also, where from the body it impacts the mind. This understanding becomes important. And therefore, from this, Patanjali builds up and he tells us that where Vyadhi is an antaraya. Vyadhi is one of the fundamental obstacles to any pursuit. Whether it is an exam, whether it is moksha, immaterial, illness is a detriment. Now, what does the Sutra tell us? 1.30, Vyadhi leads to sthana. Illness develops sthana, mental fatigue, burnout. In other words, we have a term for it today, burnout. Samshaya, this constant wavering, lack of trust, lack of faith, leading thereon to pramada, carelessness. I can't be bothered. Not interested, not bothered. I don't have a faith in anything. I'm not anchored to anything. From there, alasya. Just slowly you see that what starts as a minor disruption develops into deeper and deeper rajas and eventually only tamas. And this is highly problematic. From alasya, avirati. You've lost your anchor. You've lost the connection to what is within. And therefore, the senses take over. They become very urgent and they say, I want this and I want it now. And your mind will just follow like a slave. From their delusion, our priorities change. What is my purpose? I forget that. I don't know it. And from there, alabdha bhumikatva, anavasti tattva, inability to reach a goal, inability to achieve whatever it is that we are setting out to do. And having done it, maybe sometimes we are driven by some rajas, but then you slide back, regression. And this is a cyclical process. It's not, very interestingly, this is not even a ladder. It's a cycle. And one will beget the other and it will keep going on, becoming worse and worse. The outcome of all this, Patanjali tells us in the next sutra, dukkha daurmanasya angamejayatva shvasa prashvasa vikshepa sahabhuvaha. Where there is this mental confusion. What is mental confusion? Disturbance of Satwa, Rajas and Tamas balance. Satwa going down, Rajas and Tamas increasing. When that happens, the whole system collapses. How do you experience it? There is dukkha, depression, sorrow, suffering, feeling of grief, daurmanasya, excessive negativity, pessimism, lack of faith in anything. You can't hold on at all. And so very low mood. Angam ejayatva, weakness, debility, lack of immunity, susceptibility, and shvasa prashvasa, disturbed, chaotic breathing patterns. All of this will snowball. Now, how do you reverse this pathway of dukkha? The Sankhya tells us the answer, which is also what Yoga Sutra tells us. Where Rajas and Tamas dominate, dukkha daurmanasya angam ejayatva shvasa prashvasa will peak. These are vyuthana. These are vyuthana, disturbed patterns. These are patterns of ill health. But these have to be replaced. They can be replaced. How? You have to increase the sattva dominance. Now, there are ways and means to do that. So, dukkha has to be replaced by sukha, daurmanasya by saumanasya, angam ejayatva, the weakness or the debility, by strength, resilience, endurance, ability to deal with anything that comes, and shvasa prashvasa to be replaced with dirgha sukshma prana. And that becomes the key to yoga therapy. That when we speak of yoga and yoga therapy, as Dr. Ananda said, unfortunately, very often physiotherapy is equal to yoga therapy in the West. But then it's not merely moving hands up and down or twisting your body this way, that way. Prana is the secret. If you understand the way prana works, I think Sir is going to speak about it further, the role of pranayama. I think he'll have much more insight to give you. prana is the key to yoga therapy. Working with the prana is the key. When you alter the flow of prana so that there is more sattva, automatically that will phase out the rajas and tamas. This is the power of the breath. Though prana is available to us in other ways, through food, through water, through our sangha, a tool that is in our capacity, in our hands, right within us, is the breath. And therefore, this is why breathing practices are integrated into asana, visualization, etc. for optimal impact. And this is also the idea behind the Yoga Sutra model of the Ashtanga, because disease is an inhibitor. It will prevent you from your growth, whatever that growth is. What is our solution? The absence of disease. Absence of disease and the promotion of good health, wellness at all dimensions of the system. For this, you need physical, physiological wellness. You need mental acuity, cognitive acuity, sharpness, good memory, emotional stability, and inner tranquility. All these have to be touched, which is why the tools of yoga become very powerful. And in Yoga Chikitsa, therefore, with this as the base, in the KVM, we build up on the Vyuham of Patanjali. From chapter 2, identify the symptoms. What is happening at all dimensions of the system? Inevitably, we will see, if you trace it back to the Gunas, it will be a disturbance of one particular set of that equilibrium of the Gunas, with either Rajas becoming too much or Tamas becoming too much. That is the cause. Sattva has to be increased. The increase of Rajas and Tamas is problematic. Then you trace the cause. Where is it coming from? Is it an Annamaya cause? Is it Pranamaya? Is it Manomaya? Or is it deeper still, in the form of hidden trauma, grief, so many other experiences? So when you look at the cause, then you set the goal. The goal is very clear. Rajas and Tamas has to be regulated. Sattva has to be driven up. What are the means you can use? You can use anything that will contribute positively to increasing sattva dominance. And so when you applied Sankhya to yoga therapy, you see that its application is of understanding the three gunas at the Panchamaya level. What is happening physically, physiologically? This becomes your first point when you're interacting with a care seeker. How are they sitting? What is the body language? Are they fidgeting? These are small things that will give you a lot of insight. Are there eyelids? For instance, you tell someone, close your eyes. Observe if they're closing their eyes. Are their eyelids fluttering all the time? It's an indication of what is happening. Rajas might be higher. What's happening to the eyeball when you tell someone to close their eyes? Is the eyeball still or is it moving? Are they able to hold that stillness? What's happening to the body? What's happening to posture? Body language, mannerisms. These are the first points that you check when you check the breath. What is the quality of the breath? What is the sound of the breath? Is it short, heavy, shallow, rapid, long, smooth? What is happening in the breath? Because that is a very key indicator. Then cognition, ability to comprehend your instructions. You tell someone, as you raise your arms, you're inhaling. As you inhale, raise your arms. Finish the inhale. Start exhaling, lower your arms. Can that person do this? Itself will tell you where their mind is. If Sattva is dominant, they can do it. If not, if Rajas is dominant, they'll do this, up and down. Maybe there's no connection at all. Hand will go first, breath will come later. Or if the Tamas is dominant, they don't understand at all. What seems to be a simple instruction sometimes turns out to be very complex. So these are ways of assessing the entire system from the perspective of the three gunas. Personality. What is their behavior pattern? How do they communicate? What is their response? Everyone has dukkha in their lives in some form, in some way. How are they dealing? What is their coping mechanism? How does it manifest? In some people as anxiety, in other people as panic, in some others as depression. Others, it might be physiological issues. It might be diabetes, all the symptoms, you have to trace it back to the cause, which are essentially Trigunatmika. Lastly, their Anandamaya. What is happening there? What is their interest, aptitude? What makes them joyful? What makes them suffer? Their level of openness to understanding, acceptance, faith, their religious practices, all these become essential aspects to consider. The base of which, why am I bringing all this up, is because it is based on Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now, coming to the end of my presentation, With this as a base, how do we choose the tools that we choose in yoga therapy? In the Krishnamacharya tradition, you see that there is a vast array of tools. We are not limited to just asana in one form. If you take an Uttanasana, forward bend, we don't work with one Uttanasana. We work with as many forms of Uttanasana as there are students. So if someone can do it classically, then that is the form. If someone is not able to bend, okay, you bend halfway, bend down to hold a table. You can't even do that, sit on a chair and bend down. Now, if someone is not even able to sit to bend down, can I bring that effect? Can I bring that function in some other form? So I might use a lying posture and then get them to draw the legs in. What is the purpose, the function? That I want a certain compression of the abdomen for a particular outcome. And so you see that our canvas is very vast and we can adapt. This is one of the strengths of the Krishnamacharya tradition, to adapt. And therefore, depending on the personality, what kind of vinyasas do we use? How do we adapt this? See, for instance, there's this, just one example that I'll give you. There are several. If you have someone who's already very, very agitated, very restless kind of a personality, now for such a person to use movement sequences, many movements strung together, and then quickly moving from one to another might actually make it worse. Children with ADHD already have an issue with attention and with that constant need to be in movement. One has to look at a different strategy. And that strategy doesn't have to be only asana, it can be something else. One such strategy that our one of the KVM teachers used is to make them do asanas within certain shapes. Shapes were drawn on the floor, square, circle, triangle. One posture had to be done inside that shape only for a certain duration. And when permitted, the child can go to the next shape. But in that shape, the posture changes. It's not the same posture. This is one technique that I'm just showing you how you can adapt. Or with another child, again, child with special needs. These are all, this is what I mean when we speak of yukti. How are we adapting the technique? What is our necessity? We need to bring down those dysfunctional behavior. And there was this child who had this habit of spitting all the time. And when the child came in, her nature, small child, autistic spectrum, spitting all the time. Very common sense idea that, I mean, you might say, where is the yoga in this? But that is the ability to identify what is an immediate need, because we have to stop the spitting. Only then we can go to the next step. The teacher did not use any seated or standing movements, made the child lie down. Because there's no place to go. If the child is spitting, the spit will fall back on the child's face. So that is that presence of mind. Immediately that behavior stops. Now, when that behavior stops, then something else can be done. This is where yoga therapy becomes very useful, because we are not treating a condition. You can't treat autism, you can't treat hypertension, you can't treat diabetes. As our teacher would say, who is having diabetes? How is that illness manifesting in that individual? Is very different, for which you have to understand guna. And therefore, again, the choice of breath technique. What breathing are we using for that person? Sometimes we use breathing, sometimes we use chanting. Are we teaching them the deep diaphragmatic breathing? Sometimes we may not even use ujjayi in therapy. So this constant discernment of what to use, what kind of objects can you use? Because see, you can't generally, when it comes to visualization, this is very potent imagery. What your mind focuses on, it's going to acquire those qualities. But we want only Satwa Guna to be dominant. We had a student who had a practice based on water. Visualization of water, the need was different. At the point where she was given that practice, it was to help her with a certain menstrual issue and with some issues with conception. And so her practice design was based on water. But it so happened that she was a victim in the tsunami that occurred several years ago. She happened to be in Thailand, very badly affected. Nothing happened to her. She survived. But that left such a deep trauma on her mind that the use of water itself was ruled out as an image. And so the teacher at that point had to bring in something else, because the thought of water was enough to trigger all kinds of fears and anxiety. And therefore, you can't follow that path. Something else has to be done. And there are so many examples like this from the KVM that if we had time, we could share, but just certain ideas. Similarly, chants we can use depending on the interest, aptitude, openness, willingness to use a chant. All of this becomes a factor. Again, effect. Am I looking at stimulating energy, making energized, increasing alertness, attention, or is my focus to calm down, to possibly slow down the metabolism? Depending on my outcome, the Heyam Hetu Hanam Upayam model can be applied. And this is not that there is one goal. See, if we say you take diabetes, for instance, now the goal is not merely to make the person reach non-diabetic range. We also have to look at other factors, because if you take a condition like diabetes, it's not merely sugar metabolism. There are other implications on mood, implications on immunity, implications with regard to diet, and then how they are responding to those dietary implications. You have someone who is not permitted to eat so many foodstuffs, there can be a lot of resentment. So now there is a mental dissonance that's happening with food. The relationship with food is altered. So we are not dealing with just HbA1c or sugar levels, but at a deeper level. But through all of this, we must keep one thing in mind. Whatever tool you deploy, you could say this is a test that you ask yourself. Is it increasing sattva for the student? How will that sattva manifest? It will manifest as good health, good organs that are functioning well, good appetite, good energy, appropriate sleep, the right onset and continuity of sleep. It will manifest in their relationships, in what they, how they measure the quality of their personal relationships. It will manifest in their motivation, their energy, their ability to complete a task. It will manifest in emotional stability if there is sattva dominance. If not, then all kinds of pathologies will start emerging. And so that is our test. We have to see what is happening when you administer or apply a particular technique to a particular person. The test, therefore, is what is happening at the level of the gunas. How do you check that? You check that through the way they carry themselves. You can see it in the pulse rate. You can see it in the quality of the breath. You can see it in communication. You can see it in all these ways. You can check. And so you see that regardless of the tools that we are using, the purpose of those tools is one: achieve sattva dominance. To the extent possible, regulate rajas and tamas for that individual, achieve sattva dominance. Now, again, this is not an easy path. It's not something that you can say, turn on a switch and sattva is here, because our minds are constantly fluctuating. You don't sleep well for one night, the next day your three gunas are totally out of sync. So it is a constant process of evaluation, adjustment, feedback, sharing, and then you adjust the practice again. So there is no, you can't assume that a practice that worked for 10 days, maybe the person is doing very well. 11th day, they'll slide down again. What has changed? You have to find out what has changed in the sattva, rajas, tamas balance in their environment. And then you try to adjust the practice. This is how yoga therapy practices are also built up. Right. So with these, just these broad insights, I think I'll come to the end of this presentation as to how this fundamental idea of Sankhya, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, making up all matter, making up our body, mind, senses, speech. Why is this important? This understanding. Also the inner and outer connect between the bhutas, tanmatras, what's happening within us. I think these two itself, if we take as a base for application, this itself gives us a lot to think about. And I must say here that over the years, over 44 years, 46 years of the Kevan's existence, I think we've seen 100,000 plus files, care seekers. I think I can say reasonably confidently that the same, you will not find the same course plan repeated for two people. We don't have protocols for diabetes or protocols for back pain. But when you take up back pain, you will find 50, 100, 1,000 people with back pain, 1,000 different approaches from the respective teachers. Why is that happening? Because the application is not based on the disease. It is based on the manifestation of the three gunas. Right? I'll stop here. I'll take your questions if there are any. Later? All right. All right. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nritya Jagannathan-ji, for that most amazing, comprehensive perspective on Sankhya and Yoga Chikitsa. And I think we all need to give another round of applause for that. Some of you may not understand the depth of it. It is like putting a new swimmer into the middle of the ocean. So I accept that. But at the same time, all of this will go into your subconsciousness. And when you are ready for it, it will come. So nothing is ever wasted. So everybody is going to have a seed planted today. I take this occasion, I request Devasena Bhavanani to come and honor Nritya Jagannathan-ji with a memento on behalf of us at this point. During the inauguration, we'll be honoring our speakers again with our respected Vice Chancellor, sir. Give front line. Daya, thank you so much. The next session is by our dear Vinaij Chandraji, and this is a session where I think a topic very relevant to the theme, which is in quest of authenticity of yoga and yoga therapy. So what is yoga therapy? What is authenticity in it? We have Dr. Vinaij Chandra BK, who is Director, Indica Yoga. Dr. Vinaij Chandra, he has a Samskrita PhD with a concentration in psychology from Pondicherry University in 2009. He also has a master's degree in yogic science from SBV and 3 master's degree in psychology, English, and Samskrita. So triple master, if you want to call him that. And what is very, very unique here is he has this academic education in modern academia, but he also has a 6-year rigorous traditional Gurukulam education in Samskrita and Indian philosophy with a focus on yoga and Vedanta at the Veda Vijnana Gurukulam, Bangalore between 1999 and 2004. I'm not going to say more, but all I'll say is that every time I meet Vinaij Chandraji, I feel happy that the future of yoga as a traditional aspect of Indian life is alive and kicking. So over to you, Vinaij Chandraji.
Sabhaye Namaha, Sabhasadbhyo Namaha. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Anandaji for his love, for his warmth. Every time that we meet, every time that we talk, it's always a fountain of inspiration that we receive from him. So it's wonderful being invited by him and to be part of this solemn occasion. I'm slightly anxious as well because I feel like I have been sandwiched between the giants. We had Nritya ji, and then we'll be followed by none other than Sri Srinivasan ji, who is the giant here. So feeling a bit nervous on that, but I also feel relieved in the sense that all that I need to say or I intend to say would be covered, like the way we just listened to Nritya ji. I could have gone on listening to her. So she has covered a lot of it, and Sridharan ji will also make it even more complete. So whatever I need to touch upon would be just few things to make those bridges in between. I think that would be my role today. I'll try to keep it brief and also make up for the next session. What I intend to share in this session is just to see what are all those elements which are non-compromisable? What are those elements which we cannot discount when we are in the field of yoga? Of course, the extended part is yoga therapy. So if yoga therapy has to be complete, our understanding of yoga has to be complete. What is that makes it authentic? What is that makes it integral? So that every application is aligned, every application that emerges out of yoga practice carries those elements of yoga without distorting them. I think these are some of the things that I would like to highlight, though much of it has already been said by Nrityaji. Let me just try to fill in few things. The first thing I feel which is absolutely necessary when we come into yoga practice is the alignment between these three. The three P's, what makes it three-dimensional is philosophy, psychology, and practice. If we forget this connection, if we just take up asana just for an asana, much of it is lost. Let me just give you a couple of examples. I think again, I would like to, I would want you to see this as extension of what Nrityaji already explained in a detailed manner. The basis of Sankhyan framework, when you have to do anything with yoga and its application. I think that's absolutely necessary. That's what I'm saying, philosophical framework. For example, if in the asana practice, or let me just go to the application part. We know today that many of these illnesses, they emerge or we identify them as psychosomatic problems, right? Though the symptoms are physiological or physical, the causes, the origins are at a deeper level. It's at the psychological level. It is much deeper, right? So understanding the psychological basis of an illness and try to work with the list of interventions which Nrityaji was referring to at the end. You had asana, the styles, the breathing, the mantras. All these are various permutations and combinations of the intervention that is possible in this field. Like when you choose them, what is that you work? How do you work? Say, when I'm doing the practice, Yoga Sutra very clearly says, what does an asana do to your mind? What does an asana do to you? Tato dvandva anabhighataha. It helps you to overcome the duality of pain and pleasure. It helps you to overcome the duality of attachment and aversion. I mean, these two are the root causes of many issues. We seldom appreciate the cause. It's like the modern approach to diseases is yet in some terms infantile stage, that where it has not reached where all these things are emerging from. We have seen people who are on their deathbed but just refusing to do certain things because of the strong dispositions that they carry. The strong vasanas that they carry will still hold them despite being on the deathbed, right? It's what is it actually impacting them? It is the constitution of their mind, right? So working with the mind becomes important. If you have to work with the mind, you use body as an instrument. And while you design an asana, you keep this in mind, tato dvandva abhighataha. But if you have to really appreciate it, you need to know what are kleshas, how do kleshas operate, what are the various kinds of problems or challenges or patterns that are embedded in the human mind. And for that, you need to be familiar with the philosophy which says there is a Prakriti Purusha concept. Purusha in his essential nature is free. It is Prakriti, the actions of Prakriti that bind him or bind the Purusha. So this is the basic Sankhyan structure. Being familiar with this structure, you understand how Prakriti through various aspects, cyclic aspects, whether it is vritti or a more problematic vritti in the form of kleshas, how do they create problems? And when you're working with asanas, what is the direction that you need to go with? Right? I'll just give you one simple thing. What happens in an asana thing? This forget about the therapeutic part for the moment. When you start doing an asana, when you're not familiar with it, when you're not already comfortable with it's not easy for your body. The body resists, right? The body is familiar with the pattern, body comfortable smile. When the body is comfortable, it smiles. It is also familiar with another pattern, body uncomfortable frown. This is a set pattern within the human body. Now you get into an asana, you get into a posture where body is uncomfortable. So naturally there's a frown on the face. But what does the teacher do? He or she says, now wear a beautiful smile on your face, which is completely artificial in the beginning. So body uncomfortable, yet you're asked to smile, which is a forceful action that you're doing. But eventually what is happening? Body uncomfortable smile. You have changed a pattern. You're already working deeply with patterns. Now you go a step further. Body comfortable, uncomfortable, doesn't matter. You keep on smiling. Right? This is how you work with patterns. And it is the working with the patterns which help us to overcome such deeply embedded dimensions or the patterns of the mind which are problematic or which manifest eventually as the vyadhis or so many various kinds of issues. So if you need to understand that you're not just working with the body, but you're also working with the pattern. For that, you need to be aware of the psychological dimensions which Sutra, the understanding of the Gunas in the Sankhyan literature, they provide. And similarly, you need to be familiar with the larger framework, whether it's of Sankhya or of Vedanta, which I'll be touching upon a little later. So this strong connection between philosophy, psychology, and practice can never be forgotten. I think this is the first non-compromisable thing when it comes to the integrity and authenticity of yoga, right? This is the first one. Moving further, getting into a little more specifics, I would say Sutra and Shastra. Yoga Sutra is indispensable. If I really have to understand yoga, practice yoga in its true light, then I cannot satisfy myself with some second, third hand translations or rendered books. I need to go to the originals. If I have to go to the originals, Sutra, Yoga Sutra is what gives me that edge. Of course, there are many other texts, but I would place the Yoga Sutra text in the highest pedestal when it comes to the practice of yoga or in the application of yoga, because it's exactly what gives you that deeper insight for your practice. For example, what Nityaji was referring to, this whole approach to diagnosis, right? Heyam, what is the problem? I think this is very common across systems in India, whether you take Ayurveda, whether you take yoga, whether you take the Buddhist traditions. These four, the Chaturvyuha, is considered to be the approach to understanding any issue, any disease. Hey, yeah, what is the problem? What exactly is the problem? How do I understand the problem? And then what is the root cause? Hey, yeah, hey, tu. Where is it emerging from? I'm not so much worried about the symptoms, but what actually is causing it? Unless I understand the root cause of a problem, I won't be able to treat it. I might tend to the symptoms a little bit, but will it solve it? No. That's actually what is happening with the modern approach. Not that we have not benefited from the modern approach, but we seriously see some lacunae there, right? When you're trying to deal with saying something else emerges. Why? Because our inability, incapacity to understand where it is coming from. So going to the root cause, whichever problem you take, what is the hetu for it? Whether it is at the bodily level, even at the body level, where is it happening? Or it is at the mind level, then what is it actually bothering? I mean, many a times, it's just a very simple example is that of a child crying or child throwing tantrums. A child is crying for something, you might give, okay, she or he might be asking for a toy, you might fetch a toy, but that may not satisfy. It starts crying for something else. There's this beautiful anecdote, no? So there was this child I think it was in a court, where all of a sudden it starts to cry. And then everyone in the court is a little surprised and shocked that the child is throwing such tantrums in the presence of the king. And then the king asks, what does the child need? And then the child's parent was there, says, oh, she needs an elephant. The king says, okay, anyway, I'm a king, I can fetch it. So please get an elephant. So they bring the elephant to the court. And when they bring the elephant to the court, then this child again starts crying even more louder. And then what does she want? And then the child shows there is a small bottle to it. Now the child is asking for the elephant to be put in that bottle. Right? Even the king cannot do this. So what actually you need is not the symptom. Many times, like all our diseases are like these symptoms. You just know what we are crying for. Children cry when they are hungry. Children cry when they're sleepy, especially if you have seen in the house, if you have your own nephews, niece, or relative near ones, when they're tired in the evening, they just cry like anything. You're putting them to sleep, but they don't sleep. They cry for something else. So this kind of the root cause, understanding the root cause becomes extremely important to treat. So heya hetu, then also this firm belief, hanam, it is possible to overcome. I think no other system can give you this kind of an assurance that yes, whatever the problem could be, the so-called incurable physical problem, even that could be addressed. Like this is the firm belief a therapist should have. No matter what the situation is, no matter what the condition the patient is going through, this can be overcome. This is possible only when you have that deeper connect with the anchoring space that the sutra and the shastras provide. So hanam is the third one, and then hanopaya, choosing a method, choosing a set of methods which is the most appropriate thing. Again, here we need to remember these are upayas, these are means, they're not end in themselves. This is something we get wrong. Like even when we see while working with people from the other systems, using the tools from their system is only important. We tend to forget we are here to treat the patient. Oh, I come from this background, I should be using only this method. No, that is not the right approach. As a therapist, as a counselor, I should not be prejudiced about my own tools. Tools are just the means towards a different end. Ensuring the recovery of the patient is most important. Keeping that in mind, I use a set of tools. This set of tools might work for this time, but something else might work for something else. And Satyaji rightly pointed out, I mean, just lying down could be helpful for someone, right? But you need to know that they are tools and they're not end in themselves. So this whole conceptualization of heya hetu, hana and hanopaya, just understanding this. I mean, this is just one example why I say sutra is so important. But if you look at various other things too, I think sutra occupies the central position if you are a student of yoga. Living out sutra is living out the core of. Then the shastra, by shastra I extend it a little further, not just yoga shastra, other complementary systems too. There is a beautiful saying in Sanskrit, prajna vivekam labhate bhinnaihi agama darshanaihi. By looking into different systems, you develop a special viveka, a discrimination, an ability to discern and see what is the best approach at that given moment. And developing that viveka is extremely important as a therapist, because you are deciding something for your patient, right? And if you have to decide, you really have to get over all your own individual prejudices. And for that to happen, you should be able to see the larger picture. Prajna vivekam labhate. And how does other shastras helpful? Two most important shastras that need to be always connected with yoga, or one is Ayurveda. Nityaji was again referring to the Sapta Dhatus, like the anatomy and physiology conceptualization. Because we are working with the physical, we are working with the material, right? And the closest that comes to yoga, of course, there are some slight differences. I'm not saying there is 100% overlap. There are slight differences, yet Ayurveda gives us the closest overlap to our understanding of the human body, the physical, the sapta dhatus, the dynamism between the dhatus, How do you deal with, I mean, one aspect, say if you're having a back pain or something, it could be a vata triggered. Any part of any body pain could be vata triggered. If you don't understand that, and if you just do propose a knee surgery, if you just propose some other surgery, it may not be helpful. A mechanical intervention might not be helpful when the problem is somewhere else. So this understanding of the human body, the human functioning, the human flourishing, I think for that, Ayurveda plays a very important role. And similarly, on the other, Ayurveda gives you a material physical base. Vedanta gives you a spiritual apex of the pyramid, right? So you have something that pulls you up, and there's something that lifts you from bottom. So this conceptualization, having Vedanta on the top and Ayurveda at the base, makes it more complete. I mean, just this whole understanding again, which Nrityaji mentioned, and what Sridharanji will be detailing out, prana. I don't think any other system anywhere else will pay so much attention to prana. Any most common disease, hypertension, various kinds of things. I mean, hypertension is so common today. What is the most effective methods? Using pranayama. You have various kinds of issues. We have ADHD, attention deficit. I mean, there is various kinds of issues. Like one of the most effective tools, if you're unhealthy, to bring you to the healthy quarter. If you're healthy, to uplift your health. For all this, one constant ladder is prana, working with prana. I think the understanding of prana, which comes from the tantric background, which is embedded into Hatha Yoga, then which expresses itself or connects even in Ayurveda and other Shastras. This whole understanding becomes so extremely important. So unless you have the complementary Shastras that you study, which is part of your larger framework, again, we are missing out. Similarly, Vedanta, one of the most fundamental frameworks that we use is the conception of Pancha Kosha, right? We have the body is a multi-tiered, multi-dimensional existence, starting with Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and even this conception comes from the Upanishads, which is a Vedantic text. So similarly, the understanding of prana comes from an Upanishad. So in this manner, or even this idea in, I think it's in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where how it says the prana is the link between the mind and the body. If you have to really deal with the mind, I think the imagery that is given there is of a kite and the thread. If you really have to deal with the kite somewhere, you can't fly there. You're not Superman, Spider-Man. You can go and fly and operate with the kite which is flying there, but you use this thread which is there at your hand below on the floor, right? Manipulating this, you'll get mastery over that. So this whole understanding requires complementary systems, and more so the physical basis of Ayurveda and the spiritual purpose laid out by Vedanta. So Sutra and Shastra becomes the second most important thing. Third one, mantra and Sanskrit. I think bringing mantra and Sanskrit will make our approach more complete. Let me give you a couple of examples. Again, Nrityaji mentioned this. She was referring to visualization. She was referring to the sounding. What do you do actually in mantra? You're aligning a few things. You're aligning your intent. You're aligning your visualization. There is an image, a concrete image in front of you. You're aligning your sound and words and connected with action. You do a Surya Namaskara, but you do a Surya Namaskara with the Surya Namaskara mantra. See the effect that you can experience. They are qualitatively different experiences because you have activated one whole new cycle around just the physical practice. A set of 10 poses is one, but the poses with mantra, with the connection with the Surya Devata, with that solar power is a completely different experience. So mantra can bring in that aspect. So mantra will elevate a mechanical practice into a more holistic practice just by adding these three, the sound, intent, and visualization, which are three most important things to make any activity complete. So Sutra, mantra and similarly Sanskrit. You might wonder what Sanskrit will do. Why is it so important? When I say Sanskrit, I'm not just referring to the language Sanskrit, spoken part of it. Let me give you a couple of examples. The very idea of a healthy person in Sanskrit, the word for it is swastha. Okay, even Nityaji was mentioning this verse, swastha ityabhidhiyate. This is how Ayurveda defines a healthy person. But just see the word. You don't even need a long statement. Just the word, two-lettered word, swastha, very clearly says one who is established in his essential form. Swarupe tishtati iti swasthaha. Swasmin tishtati iti swasthaha. One who is established in his essential form. What does Yoga Sutra say? Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Then, when the vrittis have stopped, when the mental modifications are not happening, then the individual is established in his true nature. That is his essential form. That is his flourishing form. That is his most productive form. This is what we are aiming at. Just one word can communicate that. Let me give you one more example. I am pained. I mean, Anandji keeps on pointing out, he even writes about it on the Facebook. This is such an important point. You have a pose called Hanumanasana, right? How do you translate in English? How do many people do it? Monkey pose. I mean, it might appear to be anyone who is just looks the words as language. What's wrong in it? Adho Mukha Shwanasana, upward dog position. Adho Mukha downward dog, upward dog. I mean, you can keep on using these words. Yoga will go to dogs. Just this one example, Hanumanasana and monkey pose. When I say Hanuman, it is not a monkey. When I say Hanuman, it's a symbol. When I say Hanuman, it's a symbol of steadfastness. Hanuman is a symbol of divinity. Hanuman is a symbol of determination. Hanuman is a symbol of dedication and devotion. Right? What does Hanuman stand for? When you're in that pose, in that firm position with your legs split, you just feel like bowing down in front of it. But what does monkey pose evoke in you? What does monkey evoke? The monkey mind, which he was referring to. The wavering nature of the mind. The inability to hold. I mean, it's completely different. Where is dedication, determination, and steadfastness? Where is the wavering nature? They are not one and the same. They are different. The posture might appear to be the same, but what you're invoking, I think in every asana, we invoke something. We connect something to the deeper. So knowing this, in order to know this, you need to have a background of Sanskrit. Sanskrit, not just because it's the language of India or I mean, keep those things aside. But while I'm speaking in the language of science, why do I use so many words from the Roman origin? Why do I do that? Because there is an idea, there's something connected deeply with it. Similarly, if I am using yoga, it has to be connected with Indian languages, and more so with the direct connection it brings to the original, to the source, and contextualization, which gets missed when we translate it in an uninformed way. So the third point is Sanskrit, mantra and Sanskrit, what makes yoga integral. Fourth point is spirituality. At any point of time, we should not forget the whole purpose of yoga is to grow and outgrow. To grow in my own nature and to outgrow certain tendencies which hitherto act as the gravitational force and held me down in my limited being. I'm here to grow. I'm here to expand. Every activity, every movement, every occasion, an opportunity to grow and expand. So this purpose should be constantly reminded. Even if I'm an unhealthy person, if I'm making this movement, you just need to understand what actually strengthens people. The moment you bring purpose in life, the moment you bring meaning to life, a healthy, even an unhealthy person gets some kind of anchor. In fact, there is a whole approach to psychotherapy called as logotherapy. What is logotherapy? Logotherapy is nothing but helping an individual to realize the meaning of his life. Logos means meaning. The moment you help bring meaning to a person's life, then it's like Hanumadvikasa. You know, the way Hanuman, who had forgotten his initial prowess, immediately regains that prowess and take a leap towards the Lanka, right? That kind of rediscovery of oneself happens when you get your purpose in life. And that is what the whole idea of spirituality. It's not just leaving everything and going and sitting somewhere or having some kind of artificial aversion to the worldly life. No, it has nothing to do with that. Being in the worldly life, one can be as spiritual. In fact, that is where the test of spirituality happens. The moment you have purpose and meaning in life, you can deal with any kind of problem. This is the fourth one. And the fifth one, you might wonder why I'm saying this, but it is also extremely important: connection with India. At no point you can remove yoga from India. The moment you try to remove and give some kind of course, yoga in terms of application is universal, but in terms of origin, you can't remove it from India, because there are many elements to that. What do I mean? What are those elements which are very strongly associated with India? One, the cultural moorings, the framework in which it developed, this whole idea of the spiritual realization of an individual. That's where yoga comes. If the realization were not a possibility, if I were not to attain divinity, then yoga has no role to play. So beautifully Yoga Sutra says this. When it defines Ishvara, it says, Klesha karma vipakashayahi aparamrishtaha purusha vishaha ishvaraha. Ishvara is one who is not limited by these four: Klesha, karma, vipaka, and ashaya. Just look at how beautifully Patanjali brings this. He says, one who is not limited, like all our actions, whether I'm speaking here, I'm focused on whether I'm making an impact or not. Whether I'm coming here, what is that I'm going to gain or not going to gain, or what am I going to lose? So every activity that we do is normally influenced, determined to, depending on the degrees, as to what is the outcome of that action, what will follow, what happened earlier. So all these things limit us. It's not that we do just for the sake of doing it with our full strength. So this is how we are limited. So he says, Ishvara is one who is not limited by these considerations. One who is free from all these kinds of bindings is an Ishvara. And the way he defines, it almost gives anyone a possibility. Even I can be an Ishvara, provided I outgrow my klesha, I outgrow my karma, I outgrow my vipaka, I outgrow my ashaya. Even I can attain divinity. That is a probability, that is a possibility, that is the promise I hold. Just the very reason there is such a promise, that's why you need to be given tools to go there, and that's where yoga comes. So this whole understanding of human element being able to reach the divinity, I think it's Swami Vivekananda who puts it so beautifully and powerfully. He says somewhere that we are not human beings yearning for divine experience. We are not human beings yearning for divine experience, but we are divine beings going through human experience. It's so beautiful. By essential nature, I am the divinity. The purpose is to realize that, and I need tools to help me there. That's where yoga comes in. So this whole understanding that human being can be divine itself is so divine, right? And so that idea is there. And then you have the idea of Guru Shishya Parampara. I think this is again unparalleled thing. Unless I understand the role the Guru plays in my life. Of course, there are various today what we consider as some bad examples or bad situations. You can leave those aside. I mean, we can always discuss that. Keeping that, just look at the way the parampara has developed. How one Ramakrishna Paramahamsa gave a Vivekananda, how one Samartha Ramdas gave a Shivaji. I mean, if you just look at it, was the gurus who created this country. And that's why Guru stays in such a high pedestal, right? Just and the kind of therapy that takes place with the presence of a Guru. Guru Shishya Parampara itself, just I think this is Dr. Anand Paranjape, who is a professor emeritus at one of the Canadian universities. He has written a paper on how spending time with the Guru itself acts as a counseling session for a student, and how he transforms, right? It's a beautiful logically well placed article. It's published in one of the scientific journals. So I want you to go through. I mean, you can always search for it. Dr. Anand Paranjape, Professor Anand Paranjape. It's a beautiful article. So Guru Shishya Parampara, it's not just about devotion that you go and sit in front of, so in one's feet. Of course, that is important. At no point I'm discounting, but what actually happens in this relationship? How one gets transformed, how evolution happens. So this is possible only if you have the Indian concept in mind. The moment India is lost, or the moment the connection with India is lost, all these ideas are lost. The greatest sages who are associated with Yoga Parampara, the moment you take out India, all these things are lost. Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Krishnamacharya. I mean, take anyone. These are just from the recent times, hardly 100, 150 years. But take from the 5,000 years, 6,000 years, right from the sages of the Vedic times, right from that day to this day, the kind of sages who have come, the kind of revolutionary thoughts and evolutionary thoughts that they have brought in the Upanishads, where there is a declaration, Aham Brahmasmi, right? It's such a bold declaration. I mean, right from that point to this day, this land is filled with the sages. And if we really have to understand yoga in its fullness, you can't leave them out of this picture, big picture. So therefore, keeping yoga connected with India, the Indian tradition, the Indian practices is also important. Therefore, from what I see, these 5 things is what makes yoga authentic and integral. The first one I'll sum up. The first one is the alignment between philosophy, psychology, and practice. Second one is Sutra and Shastra. In Shastra, mainly Ayurveda and Vedanta, but all the associated Shastras. The moment I say Sutra, it brings in Sankhya and Yoga together. Okay. And then you have Mantra and Sanskrit, and then spirituality, and then India. So all these 5 elements, the presence of 5 elements makes yoga complete. This is the quest of authenticity in yoga, and your applications, whether it's in therapy or human development and excellence, whichever field you take, if you have these elements embedded into the practice, then even that practice, yoga therapy, also will be complete and authentic. So with this, I would like to conclude, and I would like to thank Ananda Bhavanani ji for this opportunity, and all the audience, and especially speaking in front of Sridharan ji is always a matter of great pride and a blessing. So I thank you all once again for this patient listening.
Thank you so much, Vinaij Chandraji, for that most amazing exposition. And I wish that you should put it down as an article and it should be published, because this is the message we want to take forth. Because how to sustain the cultural ethos of yoga therapy, which is yoga chikitsa. And I think every one of the 5 points you gave, I think they are beautiful. They're like a 5-pointed star that can guide us towards what we want to be. So congratulations on that. And let's give another round of applause to Vinaij Chandraji. I request Anbaragan sir, one of our senior yoga masters in Pondicherry, to give away a memento to Vinaij Chandraji. Anbaragan sir has been part of the yoga family for many decades. He is also an alumni of Saita, because he decided much later in his life that in addition to yoga, he wanted the yoga therapy here, and was an amazing student. So he is also a distinguished alumni of SBV. Thank you so much. In the afternoon, during the panel discussion, we'll come back to some questions. And at this point, we wish to go forward on the third and most amazing presentation. In fact, it's the keynote of today. And we have with us one of the most senior, respected, devoted yogis of India today, our own Sridharan sir. Sridharan sir, I have known for I don't know how many decades now, and I've been blessed to receive his blessings on so many occasions. And every time I'm reminded of a common statement I make these days: the sign of greatness is humility, simplicity, and accessibility. Humility, simplicity, and accessibility. And all three you find in Sridharan sir. More than 25 years, he was doing so much of stuff. He actually has a banking background. And I think banking background and yoga, I don't know how they came together. I don't know. 40 years.
I completed 40 years.
Wow. Wow. 40 years. Huh? 40. And, as a very close disciple of TKV Deshikacharya sir, sir has made sure that the KYM, which is the baby of Deshikacharya sir, would come up today to such a level that it is bounding and bouncing. And when I see the amazing work going on there, I know the amazing work you have done as the managing trustee over so many years. Sir is serving in so many committees. I think we meet more often in Delhi than any other place because of the committee work with the Ministry of Ayush, the Yoga Certification Board. But more than any of this, sir has that ability to give the message straight to the heart. So at this time, we wish to welcome you, sir. I request Devasena Bhavanani to come and welcome sir with a bouquet. அப்படியே அது பிடிக்கிற மாதிரி பண்ணீங்கன்னா போட்டோக்கு இருக்கும், ரெக்கார்டுக்கு போட்டோ. அதுக்கு thank you so much, sir. Sir is going to be 40 minutes. 40 minutes. 12:30. Yes, 12:30. 12:30. Tamas, sir. No issues. Yeah, you can see sir is very practical. And sir is going to be enlightening us on pranayama as a modality in yoga therapy. I think a very amazing topic. So let's all listen to sir and enjoy this wonderful satsanga that emanates from a true guru to all of us sishyas.
Okay. Shri Krishna Vagisha Yatishwarabhyam Samprapta Chakrankana Bhashya Sarham Shri Notnarankentra Yatau Samarpitasvam Shri Krishna Maryan Guruvarya Mide Virodhe Kartike Mase Shatatara Krutodayam Yogacharyam Krishna Maryam Guruvayamaham bhaje. Krishna Suri Daya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vandegam Yogadeshikam Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Bruhaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ratam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tad Bhaktaram Avatu Avatu Mam Avatu Bhaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskaram, Vanakkam to all of you. Thanks, Ananda, my dear Ananda. And I'm actually a part of CYT. I continue to be on the advisory board and all. And this place is very familiar. One or two points I need to say. Ananda said he is going to talk on this topic. He gave the topic to me. He just gave the topic to me. And I am reminded of a story where a young boy, maybe boy or girl, student, and he was writing the exam. And the syllabus was only two, a tree or a cow. So the boy has to prepare the both, because only one question will be asked. So he prepared extensively for tree, and the question was cow. So he wrote the entire thing about tree, and what is tied to this tree is the cow. The same thing is happening to me. He gave me the topic, and Ritya told, so my teacher should have talked the best, but now I am talking. But what's going to happen is she has done the tree. Now I am going to say, Tai, what is going to be tied there is the cow. And as Ananda said, we meet often in the camera, very recently also. It's a great pleasure to be here in this place and to talk on this topic. Much groundwork has been done by Nritya, very, very detailed, which really helps me. But the only thing is, probably, if Vinaya would have talked after me, he would certainly be very happy, because he is going to see how the concept will come. So first let us see the pranayama, an introduction in importance. Pranayama is the fourth anga of the Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Now, why pranayama is important? First point is the Vyasa Bhashya to the Yoga Sutra, Tataha Avaranam. He says, there is no greater tapas than pranayama, by which impurities are burnt and the light of knowledge shines forth. See, this is what Vinaya was trying to explain. If we want yoga and yoga therapy to understand, you need to understand the Shastras completely, and particularly from their original. If I just chose to write the English version. If we Tapona Paraha Pranayamaha, it will say. So you need to understand why he has put the word tapas first and then the pranayama. We must know why. So that's very important. So this is the importance of pranayama first, basically. And pranayama is one of the important Vaidika Tantrika karma. If you take any, in fact, it is apart from yoga, as he rightly said, there is a large connection, because in Indian context, we are talking about from Vedas. Yoga comes from Vedas. It is not truncated at all. That is the difference between probably the modern science and the ancient science. Now, it is a Vaidika Tantrika karma, because pranayama, if you see in your home, any puja or anything, if the priest comes, he will ask you to do the pranayama. In between, the pranayama will come. In fact, I asked a Purohit in my home, why you are asking me to do so many pranayamas? He is actually conducting. He could not say why. He said, I am asking people to do so. You are asking me why. I said, we are going to do so many mistakes, Swami. You know, so many mistakes we are going to do. And the mistakes are called as so many in terms of Kriya Lopa, Mantra Lopa, Niyama Lopa. Anything that we do. And if we want the Lopa done, you know, Papa will come. If there is a Lopa, there will be a Papa that will come. And if you want the Papa to be removed, Pranayama must be done. That is the idea. Removing the Papa. That is why it is tapas. I have to show about that. I'll come back. So, pranayama itself can confer the benefits of pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, which Brahmananda is a wonderful. Again, I have to talk about Vinaya's idea. That is why If he had talked after me, he would have just blasted out everything. See, Brahmananda's commentary, known as Josna, is a treasure, and it is in Sanskrit completely. And if every one student of yoga must read the commentary in Sanskrit, because at one place he quotes everything. For example, from Skanda Purana he is quoting. In fact, for this he has quoted a lot on this point of how pranayama itself will be pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. And he says how many pranayamas will become dharana, how many will become how many will become pratyahara, dharana, dhyana. It's a multiplication, 12 into 12 into 12, like that. Now, let us start with Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra, pranayama comes in more than one place. Particularly, it comes in the Ashtanga Yoga. That's all we know. Asana pranayama, tataha tasmin tati swasa praswasayoho gati vicchetaha pranayama. But let us come to the first chapter. Prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. So in the first chapter itself, pranayama is introduced, and this is the sutra which talks about the pranayama. And what does this say essentially is, again, as he said, the word prachardana and exhale. If you say exhale, it will prachardana will give a different approach. And exhaling and retaining the prana or va, but what is going to happen if you do that? Practice of pranayama results in the removal of impediments, antaraya. Actually, this is to be linked to what Nritya said, Vyadhi 1.30, Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada. Now, I am going to go with Nritya's whatever she said in the morning. The antarayas are 9. Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Virati, Bhranti, Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavachitatvani, Chitta Vikshepaha, Te Antaraya. Because they are causing Chitta Vikshepa, they are impediments. And that is why she said, you don't look into that also, look into Dukkha Daurmanasya Angamedetva Swasa Praswasaha. So now this Antaraya, if you want Abhava, if you want it to go, Yoga Sutra in the first chapter says it starts with Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana, Ekatattva Abhyasa, Maitri Karuna, Prachardana Vidarana Abhyam va Pranasya, Vishayavati va Pravritti Rutpannaha, Manasaha Sthiti Nibandhini, Vishoka va Jyotishvati, Vitaraga Vishayam va Chittam, Swapna Nidra Jnana Alambanam va, Yata Abhimata Dhyanatva. So we will get these, but of them, Prachardana Vidarana Abhyam va, which is one of them, is the pranayama. It is nothing but pranayama. Exhalation, hold. There are two approaches to this, and both are given by our teacher Krishnamacharya. He says, in fact, his commentary Yoga Valli on this Prachardana Vidarana Abhyama is longest one. It is more than about so many pages. And he talks about yoga therapy in this. He says, yoga therapy exists in this itself. And he says, Yoga Sutra, first chapter itself is enough to know the yoga therapy. Now, Prachardana and Vidarana. Prachardana means exhale. Vidarana can be just hold after exhale. I'm going to tell you how hold after exhale itself is a therapy. Some also, additionally, both Krishnamacharya as well as some more commentators to the Yoga Sutra have stated, the dharana can be after inhale. So exhale, inhale, and then hold down. Both are therapeutic aspects. So how this therapy is happening? List of impediments, antaraya, vyadhi. Fortunately, Nritya has given us good start on that. And it's called Chitta Vikshepa, which follows the antarayas. And Chitta Vikshepas are the cause. That is why she said, finally she said, we should get the right type of sattvic mind. Let us go to Hatha Yoga Pratipika. This, before we start on anything, we must know the pramana. Who says this? So if you say pranayama is the tool or modality, am I saying or somebody else is saying, we have the authority. Pranayamena yuktena sarvaroga kshayo bhavet. This is the first statement is enough. Because it says, pranayama yukta pranayukta, a particular smartness. That is what she said, the way in which you should work through. Yukta abhyasam. Yukta Abhyasam of Pranayama means you must have the right, it is not simply inhaling and exhaling. That is not pranayama only. First is the correct type of food that you should take. In fact, she said about Satwa, if you go on talking, if you go on eating rajas and tamasic food, however much yoga you do, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. You will be doing yoga for so many years, but you will continue to have the illnesses unless you have the right food, ahara niyamam. Second is also, that is why Yoga Sutra itself in the beginning, Hatha Yoga Pradipika in the second chapter beginning says, yogi vashihita mita ashanaha guru upatishta margena pranayamam samabhyaset. Then you do pranayama after doing asana, which is also one of the yukta. You have to do practice of asana. That's why she said, in KYM style, we always include asana with the pranayama, meaning with the type of breathing. Nitya has given the background in that. Vashi hita mita ashanaha. Vashi, after control of the senses. Hita mita ashanaha, right type of food. Guru upadishta margena, go according to what the Guru says. Why? Why we should go to the Guru? That is a problem in India. Anything you say, immediately go to the Guru. I don't want that. The West says, we don't want the Guru. Tell us, we can do on our own. If you don't have the Guru, the second line says, Ayukta Abhyasa Yogena Sarva Roga Samudbhavaha. In fact, the next sloka gives about hikka, tikka, what are all the problems that one will get. Karna Roga, Karna Vedana, the ear pain, head pain, and all will come, headache. That is why we said you should go to a right teacher. Teacher is a reference, basically. I think we mistake the idea of a teacher here. I read some time back in the internet. Yeah, important. This has come in the net. A cardiologist surgeon in US, a very famous person, a very, very famous surgeon, and he is known for his surgery and all that. He suddenly calls his teacher, and his teacher is fishing somewhere in some island. He says, please come and stand in my place and see what I am doing and give me a report. The teacher says, you are a great surgeon, I understand. No, he says, you please come and see. So the teacher is given a place. He is seeing what the surgeon is doing. After about few days or month, he gives a report of how many mistakes that this surgeon is doing. This is the idea of Guru. Guru does not mean he is sitting on my shoulder or the head. He is the one. In fact, the word is Deshika, the one who shows the path. He is a reference point. He says, this is a mistake that you are doing. Your pranayama is mistake because your breathing is not correct. A doctor, most of the doctor students of mine cannot breathe properly. Normal people, they will breathe. I had a student of a doctor, a specialist, and he says, Sridhar, I know where is diaphragm, I know where is stomach, but my stomach is not going back at all. If you are asking me to exhale and go back, he is not going. That is because his mind is interfering. That is the problem. Now, through proper practice of pranayama, all diseases, sarva roga kshayo. I think my talk is over, the sarva roga kshayaha, kshayaha bhavet. It is reduced. We have to wait and see. The idea of kshaya is, we want something like a knife to cut immediately. It will not happen. The kshaya will happen. It will have to go slowly down. That is why the difference between a Western medicine or allopathic medicine and this is, allopathic medicine will remove a headache immediately, but bring it back after 2 days. But here it is not like that. It is kshaya. It has to go in a particular way. Improper practice, I told you. Now, role of prana, which also was touched by Nitya, I want to say, she told about 2 units in us, the Purusha and Prakriti. The connecting link is the prana. It is the connecting link between the Purusha and Prakriti, Drashta and Drishyam. It sustains all living beings, decides the lifespan. Prana is responsible for wellness. It is the prana which heals. how do we link pranayama to yoga therapy? We must know about prana. And in fact, in the book called Raja Yoga, which is actually lectures of Vivekananda on Yoga Sutra, Ramakrishna Math book, in the first part of it, on prana, there are 25 pages. He talks about prana only. In fact, for all the classes that I take, I give this as an assignment. I will ask the students to take it and write from there what he talks about. He says the prana can be excess in some place and short in some place. He says that vitiation, prana prakopa. Now, prana is responsible. How the healing takes place in us? It is because of the prana. You know, you cut your you cut a small finger is cut, you know, every day we get it. Who is healing it? Actually, what we are putting there is not healing. The healing comes from within. It is the prana that heals actually. In fact, prana, as rightly said by Nritya, we recall, has got more than one role. She said that in a passing way. One role is about life, another role is about healing, another role is about wellness, finally spiritual emancipation. If the prana is in your Sushumna, you are going to the highest spiritual evaluation. Now, this prana is carried into the system by nadis, which are the carriers, and the impurities in the nadis of the cause of illness. That's all. Straight away, if the nadi is blocked, in today we have got a block of in the heart, how many percentage and all that. We can, our teacher can, and we all have been trying to find out how much of block is there in your nadis by looking at your, you know, one of the things that we do in this. Now, this main aim of pranayama is removal of impurities, tapas. That is why it is called a tapas. If you remove the impurities, tapu dahe, it comes from the root tapu dahe. Dahe means to burn, burning the impurities. Why pranayama is called the best or topmost tapas? It is not because somebody is standing on one leg and doing pranayama, no way. It is because it removes the impurities through the process of a burning. And that is where the right technique of breathing comes. So pranayama will help and give us the right therapeutic effect or any other effect, spirituality effect, only if you do the right technique of pranayama. So we have to start with the exhalation, contraction below the navel and taking it up. Inhale comes from top. So actually what happens is the malas are below the navel and that place is called apana. It is completely malas. And there is a fire which is just above the navel, just at the navel itself, but it is looking upward. You have to turn the fire towards the malas, and that is done by pranayama. Every inhale takes the fire towards the mala, hold your burning, exhale, it brings it out. So this is a cycle. That is why when using the Jataragni, a cycle of breath, one cycle, it is like an it is like an internal combustion engine. It goes, you know, exhale, bring the apana up near the fire. Inhale, push the fire to the apana, hold, it burns. Exhale, it comes out. In fact, in the next inhale, we are taking a good prana. We can direct it to various places. That is how the therapy happens. Illness starts. How does illness start? Illness starts at the meeting point, granthis of the nadis. Krishnamacharya has given all his teachings through a lot of verses, Sanskrit verses, slokas, and we have put them into two of the publications. One is Yoganjali Saram, another is Dhyana Malika. In that he says, Nadi Granthishu Jananam Labdhva Mamse Koshe Vriddhim Gatva Sandishu Leela Natanam Gritva Yogo Rogo Nashyati Ha. That is what he says. Yoga removes all roga. How? Because Nadi Granthishu Jananam Labdhva. All the nadi. In fact, that is why when you want to do yoga therapy, anatomy, physiology is okay, but that is not enough. We study. We are also asked to study. I am not a doctor, and Nitya is not doctor. We have all studied. In fact, in the latest of the problems comes, if somebody is going to tell us what this problem is, including doctors will look into only the mobile. So we will read the mobile and say, what is this problem? But I must know how it is going to be looked at from yoga angle. That is what the therapy is. Desgater will say, I just don't know. Please tell me what exactly is happening to you. He will say, Nadi Granthishu Jananam Labdva. In the joining point of the nadis only, the actually impurities able to reach there. Today, modern science also says sometimes why there is a problem for diabetic people, because the problem is their blood is not pure and it does not reach all parts of the body. So you get gangrene, you get neuropathy. They are all on account of the same way. A simple example. Nadi Granthi. So from Nadi, the Granthi point, it could also be the chakras. Actually, they are Granthis, but the form of them is chakras. That's what ancient. So if the ancient way, Krishnamacharya is said, somebody has a problem in the throat, voice. He will say, Vishuddhi chakra is in trouble. The prana is not going there. So do something for that. So we will do postures and breath in such a way that the prana reaches. But before the prana reaches, we must remove the impurities. Then only it can go. And directing the prana chalanam will take place. Now let us get to the idea of the doshas. That is what he has done very extensively. Thanks for that. Yoga and Ayurveda share certain common principles. The human anatomy, which he said very, very clearly, and the Vyuha model, she also said that, and the idea of Heyam, Hetu, Hanam, Upayam. Now let us see. Recognition and working with the three doshas. Illness is a vitiation of the three doshas. Dhatu, Rasa, Karana, Vaishamyam. For the Vyasa's commentary for the Sutra 1.30, which starts with Vyadhi, Sthana. For the Vyadhi, he says, Dhatu, Rasa, Karana, Vaishamyam. Here the word Dhatu is taken to be the three doshas, according to subcommentaries and according to people. So the three doshas are that which are in vitiated state. That's what she also very clearly said. So let us go to the idea of the pranayama now. Where do we get the pramana or the authority? And is there any direct idea about application of pranayama? Direct idea? Yes, it is there. Direct idea comes in the Ashtakumbhaka part, which is the Kumbhaka part, the second chapter. It talks about 8 pranayamas. Of the 8 pranayamas, we will leave Plavani, Murcha presently. We don't require them. The 3 which are very important is Shitali, Surya Bedana, Ujjayi, and Shitali in the same order. Actually, Surya Bedana, Ujjayi, and Shitali. Surya Bedana talks about the result is given as Vataharam. It straight says Vataharam. So how do we link it? Illness is a vitiation of the 3 doshas. Dhatu, Rasa, Karana, Vaishamyam. So Dhatu Vaishamyam, Rasa Vaishamyam, Karana Vaishamyam. Karana means all the various instruments in our body. She has stated it very extensively. Now, when this Dhatu Vaishamyam is taking place, the Dhatus are 3, and she has also given the idea of how the Dhatus are related. I am also giving one small information on that. How do we connect the Dhatus with the Gunas as well as the Panchabhutas, which she has very extensively stated. Now, we are going to deal with the Dhatus. When we are dealing with the Dhatus, which are the 3 doshas, they are called doshas because a vitiation of them are responsible for the illness. That is why they are called dosha in Sanskrit. But they are also required. All the 3 are required. Like she said, all the 3 gunas are required. Now, if there is a Vata Prakopa, Vatam is too much, Surya Bedana will help. If there is a Kapha Prakopa, Ujjayi will help. Shitali, Pitta Prakopa. I will tell you very simple. What we have found is, this is not a protocol-based one. It can never work in the same way. There are various reasons why it is not protocol-based, as Nritya was saying in the morning. But For example, if somebody has excess of hyperacidity and all that, Sheetali helps a lot. We can say that. Sometimes I'll give 40 Sheetalis 3 times a day. For the people. But for the person to do Sheetali, we will have to do some modifications and so many things. That is where the idea of modification, everybody cannot turn the tongue like this immediately, according to classical style. One more thing is, this is where the classical style and modification comes. If you immediately, oh, I can take the book, and why do I want a teacher? I can take the book. You take the book, and you take the book and say Surya Vedana according to Hatha Yoga Pratipika, and you say, I have found out that this is a Vata Prakopa, I will work. You know what Surya Vedana it will say? You will have to inhale through your right nostril, hold maximum Akesha Padantam from the top of the head to the feet. After that, exhale through the left. You ask your student and who has come for the first time, he cannot hold for 2 seconds. Where is Akesha Padantam? And if somebody does Akesha Padantam and the person has got high BP, then his BP will go up. Any inhale hold, particularly hold after inhale, will raise your pressure more. And he will have a high, pulse rate. And then he will immediately get into BP problem and he will come back. So we cannot, mutant is mutant, you cannot apply it in the same way. That is where we get to the parampara. One more topic which he has given to me over this thing I have to do is how this yoga therapy is done in yoga parampara in the KYM. I'm going to talk about that. So she said very clearly about consultation, what is the background. So these all informations are available. We have to apply through proper modification. If you take Ujjayi, it's real Kapahara. In fact, when COVID came, I said Ujjayi will help. Not necessarily only Kapalabhati. Everybody was saying Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati, if you do, it will get a hyperventilation. So if you do Ujjayi, it will help. But Ujjayi classical form cannot be done. You will have to work with the high level of, hold will not, you will have to work with it with a modification. Now, role of the Gunas. This is where she has very extensively said. The basic raw material of the human system. Very clearly, she's talked about the 3 Gunas. See, Gunas, as she has put fortunately, she has put it well before me. I was not able to give this in my slide. She has put from the top how the tree comes, like the Bhagavad Gita says, Urdhva Moolam Atha Shakam. Like that, it will say, the root will be on the top. Ataha Shakam. And then Shaka will come below. Urdhva Moolam. So from the Gunas, 3 Gunas, right up to the Pancha Mahabhutas, she has said. The 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, very rightly put. I'm just adding one word. They are expression of the Pancha Mahabhutas. They are expressions. They express. That is where the Gunas and 3 doshas are connected. There are directly how Gunas and doshas are connected. There is particular article by 2 people who have written from Karnataka. There's a very good article in the net. But Sushruta says very clearly, and that is where the Sankhya model of the therapy which she has put. So Gunas and doshas are there. So from dosha side, I have already told you how we are dealing. Some idea. Let us go from the Gunas side. At the level of the doshas, it is the effect. Gunas are the cause. So every problem, Heyam, Hetu, Hanam, Upayam, Hetu. If you look at the Guna side, you will see the Hetu part. If you look at the Dosha side, you will see the Heyam part. That is where the most important point. Pranayama deals with both. It does not just deal with only the symptom, it deals with both. Vitiation of Rajas and Tamas are responsible for all illnesses. She told in the morning, Satwa heals. There are references for this. She has also not said, I'm also not giving, but the references are available. In fact, Krishnamacharya talks about it. In fact, from Vedanta angle, as she was talking about, it is talked also about this Satwa healing, Pranayama brings down the Rajas and Tamas. Tataha Shiyate Prakasha Avaranam. Prakasha means, as far as the Yoga Sutra is concerned, Prakasha means Satwa. Prakasha Kriya Sthiti Sheelam Bhuta Indriya Atmakam Bhoga Apavargartam Drishyam. About the Prakriti. Prakasha, it says it is Satwa. Avaranam, what is covering. In fact, some commentators even continue to say it is not only Tamas and Rajas, which is correct, but it is the entire vasanas that are covering, or vasanas which are covering. So Pranayama brings down that. Pranayama deals with doshas. So Pranayama deals with the gunas at the level of the Tatahakshiyate Prakasha Avaranam. Those with doshas that we are talking about in the Surya Vedana, Ujjayi, Shitari and all. But let us quickly go into techniques. We must know, how the techniques of pranayama. I have 5 minutes, Yes. Right technique of breathing is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Apane juhvati pranam, prane apanam tatapare, prana apana sama, prana apana gadiruddha, pranayama parayanaha. That is it. So, apane juhvati pranam, when the pouring of the prana from apana to prana portion, prana to apana portion is pranayama. So that is the right technique of breathing which is first taught. When we teach them the right technique of exhalation. How? Because you contract the abdomen as if it was throwing the air from here, as if. So now the first lesson is right technique of breathing. Then we get how many pranayamas are there? There are 3 types of pranayama. Hatha Yoga Pratipika says in the 2nd chapter. And it says Rechaka, Puraka and Kumbhaka are the 3 pranayamas. And in Kumbhaka, 2. Now, first lesson is to teach exhalation, use of postures, particularly Apanasana, for example, very simple, like she is talking about, which is in the other segment, they call it as Pavana Mukthasana. It is removal of impurities. Its effect is removal of impurities. Improper breathing will result in getting illness. We have been said. So proper breathing, yukta, correct technique of breathing is important. Individualization and supervision is very, very important. That's what we are talking about. Now let us quickly go and say Rechaka Prana, 3 types of pranayama, Rechaka, Puraka and Kumbhaka. Let us take Rechaka. Rechaka is called the Langana Pranayama. She said that in the last one. So Langana and Brahmana effect. Rechaka Pranayama, where there is a focus on exhalation and it confers a lot of benefits. Stabilizes BP, relaxes the system, calms the mind, anti-stress. But the basic problem is, it is simple protocol, but it is not very easy to teach exhalation. The most difficult. We may have to ask the person to shout ma, ra, ba, and all that. After putting the hand in the stomach, even then they will not be able to do. It's not that easy. Only when they get the correct exhalation, we will go into pranayama properly. That itself will be a great reliever. That is why we start with exhalation. Then Puraka Pranayama, called Brahmana effect, focuses on inhalation, helps energization. And I have seen it deals with hypertension a lot. Today, hypertension is another problem. I saw very recently a girl, about 2-3 days back, just 2 days back, and the mother brought her. She is very good, very talented person also. She is studying in the 9th standard. And she said everything is okay, but for the last few, for about 6 months ago, so she is lost concentration. And she is not showing interest, very talented. And she used to do very well in math. And when I ask her to do postures, it is as if she can do everything. And I can grab. It is to be taught to her. You just do Paschimottanasana, she says, I am doing with my father. So what is? And then I ask her, yeah, every day I am doing headstand, Shirshasana. What is the problem? Then I just saw her breathing. Breathing was also good. But she was not doing with right breathing. Second is, her blood pressure was very low, 80/60. And I asked her mother. Mother says she is not getting good interest in eating properly. So the answer is how to make this hypotension better. So I asked my teacher to give immediately, starting with a Brahmana type of pranayama. So start with itself. As I was thinking about it, she started getting lightheadedness in a postural problem. So the Brahmana Pranayama helps a lot, because today hypotension is important. Sluggishness, those who are in antidepressant, you can see Brahmana will help a lot. Now, Desha, Bahya Abhyantara Stamba Vrittihi, Desha Kala Sankhyabihi Paridrushto Dirgha Sukshmaha. We talked about Bahya Vritti, exhalation, Abhyanta Vritti, inhalation, Stamba Vritti. I have not gone into it. I have told you also about it. Stamba is nothing very simple. Exhalation hold makes the same effect of exhale better. Inhalation hold makes the inhalation better. Now, Desha, throat, tongue, nose, they are all, I told you already about Ujjayi, Shitali, Surya Bedana, Kala, Matra, and that is where he said a word about mantra. And timing, the inhalation, exhalation, hold Kala, generally seconds. It's called Matra in Sanskrit. And Matra, they have given how we should have the Matra. And today we are talking about seconds, keeping the metronome by the side. They work, but they don't work much. You put mantra into it, it works very well. And very important in yoga therapy. Let us not shy away from the idea of mantra. I have taught the most important person in Tamil Nadu who doesn't believe in God, but he also had his own mantra. He decided on his own mantra, and my teacher approved it. So let us talk to the person properly. Mantra is very important. It has got sound therapy there. So how to integrate mantra? Krishnamacharya in yoga will very clearly say, pranayama integrated with mantra only will help in yoga therapy. And Sankhya is number of times based on individuals. Some people get some will have to go for a longer number of cycles till the results are achieved, short term or long term. So summing up, pranayama has a very important role in yoga therapy. Without pranayama, yoga therapy will not deliver, I can very clearly say, the full and desired result. Pranayama helps achieve removal of illness, wellness, ultimately self-realization. Pranayama makes the practitioner become intensely aware of himself or herself, swadhyaya. It slowly makes you aware of your own. You will be able to say where the problem is. You don't have to go to any laboratory or doctor and all. You can say where the problem is yourself. Nature of illness deals with pain and sorrow. Extended exhalation makes the pain to come down. Heyam dukkam anagatam. Pranayama help ward off all future illnesses before even contracting them. I was talking about therapy after the illness comes. If you do pranayama properly, illnesses are kept at bay. That we must know. Finally, what is the clue for this? Our teacher Krishnamacharya, as I told you, gives clue to everything. Yame pranayamam dasha kuryat ayur vriddhihi. He says, yama means 3 hours. Every 3 hours, you do 10 pranayamas, illness will not come anywhere near you. That is more important in therapy. Then after the problem comes, yes, we will deal with that. Thank you so much. And I think I have done within the time.
Thank you so much, sir. Seriously, I think, this is why you need the Guru Shishya Parampara. Because you have to be Upasana. The Guru teaching. That is why Upasana Yoga solvang. You have to be close to the teacher, close to the teachings, and then you come to close to that state of yoga itself. And this is why it is so important. We are blessed. We are really blessed to have these type of teachings. The seeds are being planted for the future. So another big round of applause for sir. And I request Shanmugam sir and Lalita miss to come and give away a memento for sir on this occasion. Yoga Tilagam Shanmugam and Yoga Tilagam Lalita Shanmugam. They have been students of Swamiji and Ammaji for decades and are running our Yoganjali Natyalayam. And Lalita and Devasena, they are sisters. So, so we wanted to honor sir with a memento. Both are very senior in the yoga field for Puducherry. Thank you.
Thank you. I am remembering Deshkecha.
Definitely. We are going to be going into the inaugural session, and we'll have our respected Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir with us. Our respected Vice Chancellor Sir, our respected Registrar Sir will be here, and online we'll be having our Honorable Director of MDNIY, Dr. Ishwar Basavaredi Sir. We'll have Professor B.R. Sharma ji from Odisha, the Vice Chancellor of the Sri Sri University. And here in person, we'll have our respected Yogacharya Sridharan Sir. So we are just awaiting the arrival of our dignitaries at this time. I welcome everyone who's here, especially Renuka ma'am, our principal of the nursing. Then they are always supporting us. In fact, Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth is the first place where nursing has a full 90-hour program of yoga therapy incorporated into the curriculum, thanks to her efforts, where they receive 45 hours in the first year, 30 hours in the second year, and 15 hours in the third year. So throughout the BSc nursing, they get 90 hours of yoga and exposed to yoga therapy. So similarly, we have in the allied health, where also all the allied health students are having an elective in yoga. So they have an elective in yoga that also has a university exam. And this is the type of grassroots level. It is being introduced to all the streams at SBV. And just a few minutes, and we will be coming to the inaugural. Laptop. Welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Yes, sir. We respected Registrar, sir. We welcome Yogacharya Sridharan, sir, to be with us on the dais. Amma, Amma, நீங்களும் தான் இல்ல நீங்க வாங்க இல்ல இதுக்கு ஒரு காரணம் இருக்கு. We request Ammaji to please come. We'll be having with us online Dr. B.R. Sharma ji, the Vice Chancellor of Sri Sri University from Odisha, and we are awaiting the joining online of Dr. Basavaredi ji, the Director of MDNIY, who will be with us. we begin the inaugural program. We begin the inaugural program and we welcome everyone to this International Yoga Therapy Convention being organized as part of SBV Yoga Mahotsav 2022. We start with the traditional prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. We now request everyone to stand for the SBV anthem.
Education gives humility. Humility gives character. From character, one gets wealth. From wealth, one gets righteousness. In righteousness, there is joy.
Thank you. I take this opportunity to welcome our respected Vice Chancellor, Professor S.C. Parija, sir, for this event. Sir is the inspiration behind so many activities that have been happening in the field of yoga therapy through the citer of SBV. And your presence here today, sir, is an inspiration to us. We welcome you, sir. I request Devasena Bhavanani to welcome sir with a bouquet at this occasion. We welcome our respected registrar, sir, Professor A.R. Srinivasan, sir, who inspires us and makes sure that each and every activity at our SBV occurs in the due process. We welcome you, sir. I request Devasena Bhavanani to give the bouquet and welcome our registrar, Srinivasan, sir.
I would request madam to give to Sridhar and Sarah, madam, then I accept. Because
Okay.
Sarah is the senior most yogi here of international athletic.
Okay, sir. So we request Devasena Bhavanani to welcome Yogacharya Sridharan sir and ma'am who are with us today. Sridharan sir, one of the senior most Yogacharyas of India today, an expert who's acclaimed all around the world and serving on so many committees in the Ministry of Ayush, the Yoga Certification Board, and so many other committees. And now honoring and welcoming Professor Srinivasan sir, our registrar. Virtually, we welcome our most respected and honorable Dr. Ishwar Basavareddy sir, the director of MDNAY, who has selected SBV through the Ministry of Ayush to conduct this 100 days, 100 cities, 100-day countdown to the Yoga Day. We welcome you, sir, virtually. Thank you for joining us this morning. And we welcome Professor B.R. Sharma-ji, the respected Vice Chancellor of Sri Sri University in Odisha, one of the most revered yoga experts, having served Kaivalya Dharma for so many decades, and an honor that both Sharma-ji and our Basava Reddy sir both are, along with Sridharan sir, on the advisory, International Advisory Committee for CITER. We welcome you all to this grand event. I would like to invite and welcome our invited speakers. Nritya Jagannathan ji, a round of applause. Nritya ji, welcoming Dr. Vinaij Chandraji, who has come all the way from Bangalore, and Dr. Subramaniam Subbuji, also from Bangalore, who joined us this morning on the beach also, right away after his travel. We welcome our Principal of Nursing College, Renuka ma'am, our Principal of AHS, Uma ma'am, all the faculty members, staff, students of SBV to this event. We'll now go to the felicitation, and I invite Professor B.R. Sharma-ji, the Vice Chancellor, Sri Sri University, Odisha, to say a few words on the occasion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anand, Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Registrar, sir, the Dr. Sridharan ji, all the dignitaries sitting on the dais, and the invitees, the guest speakers, the students, friends. Today, I'm so happy that in the Yoga Mahotsav, particularly for this yoga therapy, which is a controversial, and Dr. Anand has brought this concept of yoga therapy systematically for the deliberation. Because as he himself has said sometime, that instead of yogapathy, we have to understand properly the yoga therapy, the principles of yoga therapy, and particularly the yoga chikitsa. Although this word yoga chikitsa is not available in the traditional yogic texts, but as Ayurveda is a sister science for yoga, and this chikitsa is defined so systematically in Ayurveda, wherein we can go to the roots of our basic problems. And yoga has potential to go to the roots of the problems, and it can help us. What I would just say a few words, that we should not claim, or we should not make a tall claims that yoga can do everything. No doubt about it. When Bhagavad Gita says, Yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhakti dukkhaha, yoga can help us to overcome all our suffering permanently. That is what is the purpose of this yoga. We should not limit ourselves, and we should remember that purpose. But at the same time, we have to remember that at the physiological level, psychophysiological level, we have to keep few things in mind while talking about the yoga therapy, and we should not make a tall claims. Let us divide all our problems into three parts. The problems which are coming from the mother's womb, say for example, there is a hole in the heart. I think yoga cannot do anything. It has to go to the surgery, and thereafter we can go for the rehabilitation. There are certain hereditary problems. These problems, once they are manifested, they cannot be rooted out. So we should not make a tall claim that all problems can be rooted out. I said that the hereditary problems, the genetic problems, you can postpone these problems, no doubt about it, with the help of yogic lifestyle. But if the problems, hereditary problems get manifested, it can be maintained to a certain extent with the help of yogic procedures, yogic principles. There are certain acquired problems, and acquired problems can be rooted out with the help of yogic principles. And these principles are very much discussed today. I was listening the model of Chaturvyuha given in the morning talk, and that was fantastic. But we have to remember that we should not limit this Chaturvyuha only for the sake of only the psychophysiological, to create the psychophysiological balances. We have to keep this, the ultimate aim, in mind. And if we keep that ultimate in mind, I think that automatically this other aspects are the byproduct, and automatically psychophysiological balance can be maintained, can be developed. I think that there's not much time. I'll stop here, and I wish all the best for this Yoga Mahotsav, which is being organized by the Sri Balaji University, Vishwavidyalaya. And I congratulate all the organizers for systematically organizing it, and I wish all this success. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor B.R. Sharma ji, for your words. We'll take them to heart and we'll take it forward with your blessings. I'm sure that we can take this to the greater heights. I now request Yogacharya Sridharan sir to say a few words of felicitation on the occasion.
Namaste to everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be back into this place. I consider myself to be a part of this CYTER. I'm continuing to be on the board, as he said. And I remember the first day when I came and I was asked to cut the ribbon and to inaugurate. What I would like to say is a growth can be in quantity, but the quality is more important. That is what is maintained here. The most important thing is the quality that is important. Cancer is also a growth, but that is not required, Quality is more important. And yoga therapy is getting its right due of recognition and proper application. And all credit goes to Ananda on that. They have done right thing in having him there. I'm only saying that this is going to be the torch bearer, because we are going to get multiple such institutions attached to every hospital. In Chennai, KM started working with the hospital, and I told them that the role model is CYTER, you please take it up from there. So how it should be? One, you attach it to, when you attach yoga as a therapy to a hospital, how it should work is, so he was talking about the integrated therapy. In fact, in the same forum I was talking last time about yoga therapy, the world is moving towards integrated therapy. The due recognition has to be given, but how to mix them properly, that is more important. So CYTER are doing an excellent job. I wish I will certainly be able to do my best in contributing, and I thank. And this Mahotsav is an excellent occasion for us to share a lot of thoughts, because this is an evolving science, and we need to often meet for making continuing education on this. Thank you very much. Thank you for me.
Thank you so much, sir, for the kind words, and your cutting the ribbon for CYTER a decade ago. It is a beautiful memory that we are coming a full cycle now, that 9 years ago at one of our first events, I remember, sir, at that time it was in the physiology lab. We had the ribbon cutting to officially begin CITER's multifaceted activities. Thank you, sir. We now request our Professor Srinivasan sir, Registrar SBV, to give a felicitation.
Namaste to this erudite gathering. Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, most eminent Sridharan sir, my guru I can call, and Madam Guru, Dr. Ananda, and most distinguished people actually who joined us on the virtual platform. Professor B.R. Sharma, the distinguished Vice Chancellor of Sri Sri University, Odisha, who is also the Dean of Health and Wellness there. So it's actually a very remarkable thing that is there. And also the most important patron for the day, our own respected and beloved Ishwar Basavaredi sir, who has been genuinely kind enough here actually to put CITER and Sri Balaji Vidyapith on the universal pedestal of yoga. I think we have to really thank actually the munificence of such an illustrious person. And as Sridharan sir has rightly remarked, I think with the fillip provided actually by our Honorable Chancellor Sir Shri M.K. Rajagopal and Vice Chancellor Sir Professor Parija, Dr. Ananda Balayogi has been doing a stellar role here in effectively combining the art and science of yoga. And as Sridharan sir has rightly remarked, actually without any exaggeration, he has seamlessly integrated into the fold of yoga therapy. And I think with all the benevolent blessings of our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir Sridharan sir and Madam, I think we have to give a big round of applause to Professor Ananda. May be blessed with all the best actually that life can offer, so that he continue to serve as a role model. And I am quite sure actually that it is going to signal the arrival of several such unique endeavors. And we also take this opportunity to welcome all the distinguished panelists, the distinguished speakers and resource persons. May God be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your felicitations. Everything we are achieving at CITER is only with the blessings and the benevolence of our Chancellor, sir, and Vice Chancellor, sir, and the support of all the heads of institutes, the registry, the administration. Otherwise, we cannot do this. So the full success belongs to the whole SBV family, and CITER is happy to be one anga, one limb of that SBV family. We will now be going over to the inauguration, and I request our dignitaries on stage to light our lamp to traditionally inaugurate the event, which will be followed by inaugural address by Ishwar Basavaredi sir. Following the official inauguration with our lamp lighting, I now invite the most amazing, dynamic Dr. Ishwar Basavaredi ji, Director of MD&AY and CEO of the Yoga Certification Board in the Ministry of Ayush, to deliver the inaugural address. If today the Yoga Day is being celebrated all around the globe, a major contribution goes to the efforts of Dr. Basavaredi sir. Single-handedly, he brought together the splintered yoga family in India into the Indian Yoga Association, bringing all the different traditions together. And today, making sure that the quality is maintained through the Yoga Certification Board. And one of the most dynamic sevakas of yoga. He considers yoga his divine mother, serves her with love. And at this occasion, we invite you, sir, to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Pro Vice Chancellor, Registrar of the esteemed university, faculty members, distinguished guests on the dais, Sri Sridharanji, Dr. B.R. Sharmaji, my esteemed friend, my family member, Dr. Anandji, and all the yoga enthusiasts. आप सभी को मेरा सादर प्रणाम. So just I said it's a wonderful morning. Right now in a minute Shri Gadkari sir has arrived. We have to welcome him. My best wishes for the entire event, and I'm so happy that you are felicitating Shri Sridharanji. I'm so happy, and every year it should become a regular event that recognizing the best persons like Sridharanji and felicitate them, so that that will be encouragement for the good workers. Second one is many activities has been started under the able leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, and continue for taking many and notes for the contribution of Pavana.
Sir, I think there's an internet drop. We need to unmute and continue, sir. Dr. Basavaredi sir is currently in Mysore getting ready for the 21st Yoga Day where Prime Minister will be coming. And I think there's an internet issue, and as he said, the minister, Central Minister Nitin Gadkari sir is coming there, so they're ready to welcome him. We hope he will be able to connect again. There's some network. So I think there was a network issue there, and he had offered his best wishes, and in his busy schedule, you can imagine when you are director of the National Institute and all the central ministers are there, in that time also he has tried to connect with us and give his blessings. I think it's much appreciated, and his support means a lot to us. I put it on record at this point. I am now pleased to invite our respected Professor Subhash Chandra Parija sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of SBV, to deliver the Yoga Day address. Sir is the inspiration behind all the activities that you are seeing happening. This morning we had the most amazing program at Pondicherry Beach, where at the Gandhi Tidal, with the sun coming up and the waves and the sea breeze, the Lieutenant Governor, Madam, joined us for one of the historic events, and every event being inspired, motivated, and directed by our respected Vice Chancellor, sir. I request you, sir, to now deliver the Yoga Day address, sir. Mic testing.
Good afternoon. Esteemed Dr. Ishwar Baswareddy, Director of Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, and respected Professor B.R. Sharma, Vice Chancellor, Sri University, Odisha, respected Yogacharya S. Sridharan, respected Madam Sridharan, and esteemed my colleague, Professor Srinivasan, Registrar of the Sri Balaji Vidyapith, and Professor Balogi Anand, Director Cited, and dear experts, resource persons, and heads of the institutions of SBV, and faculties, and my dear students. At the outset, on my behalf and behalf of big family of our Sri Balaji Vidyapith and our Chancellor, Sri M. K. Rajgopalan, I extend happy greetings to you all on this occasion of SBV Yoga Mahotsav 2022, which we have been hosting since morning today. As Professor Balogi Anand has mentioned, today morning we had a very momentous occasion. Our Mass Yoga Day celebrations, we celebrated in the Pondicherry near Gandhi Thadal on the backdrop of beautiful sea and rising sun. It was really mystic. And our Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry was very gracious enough to inaugurate this program, and not only she inaugurated, but she took active part in the performing of all the asanas of yoga along with the participants. So this speaks the motivation and support given by Her Excellency Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry to celebrate and support our SBV Yoga Mahotsav in this grand fashion. And now at the moment, I am extremely delighted to be here in this auspicious occasion, in the midst of all senior yogacharyas like Yogacharya Sri Sridharan, Madam Sridharan, and all eminent yogacharyas. And I feel myself motivated. I feel myself blessed to be amongst with you all yogacharyas in this auspicious momentous occasions. I'm really thankful that I am being given the opportunity to share some of my thoughts on behalf of our Sri Balaji Vidyapith, popularly referred to as SBV. We at the university, Sri Balaji Vidyapith, are moving forward persistently to contribute for the causes of society. We have initiated many activities, among them our center stands out as one of the basic centers of our universities that promotes complementary medicines like yoga therapy and music therapy that supplements the traditional medicines, healthcare, what we are performing at our universities. We are moving forward along these directions, and for last more than a decade, we are trying scientifically, carrying out the research, showing the evidences to prove the efficacy of so-called yoga therapy and music therapy in enhancing the quality of the health cares. Because we do believe our Indian culture is strong in heritage and traditions. We must try to integrate this knowledge being transmitted to us over the centuries, years and thousands of years, and how to integrate in these modern healthcare systems. We have a full programs, PhD programs, other graduation, post-graduation program in which we are trying to validate different components of yoga for better healthcare and other things. In this way, recently we have now upgraded to strengthen the complementary medicine as a center for complementary medicines that will encompass yoga and music therapy, and that reflects our focus, our seriousness to integrate, to bring the benefits of yoga and music, not only in our day-to-day life, but also in treatment and health care of the patients. That should be evaluated scientifically, because we have to present the efficacy of this yoga and music in the way entire science, entire population wants to know. Prove it scientifically. That is what we are doing. And I remember of many contributions of yoga therapy. We had few publications on effect of yoga for the dental therapy, for betterment of the dental outcomes. So there are many instances in which we have been working in this line, that will move forward. I'm very much confident because we have got international advisors, galaxies of yoga experts with their contributions, with their advice, and a strong leadership of Dr. Balogi Anand, I hope, will move forward. Basically, we must believe that we must grow. University must grow. In essence, we must serve to the society where we are situated. People should also grow. People should also benefit the activities of the universities. That is one motto of the universities. I hope this activities, which is being recognized by many, I hope will be sharing our experience, expertise for promoting this yoga therapy and music therapy for improving the quality of healthcare. As Dr. Sharma was rightly mentioned, we should not make tall claims. We must validate scientifically the claim what we are making it. That is our university structures. That is what we are working. And it is definitely overnight. We cannot validate and establish, but definitely if we work together over the years, our data will support and strengthen the belief of the people for the benefits, effect of the yoga. With these few words, I wish you all the best. I'm confident the programs, academics being conducted will help you all to realize more and more the importance of yoga, in particularly modern day, where modern day and this modern living has brought us many benefits. But one of the most important disadvantages, it has brought us a lot of stress and lots of mental anxiety. So I hope in this way, yoga will help us to reduce stressful life, to have a plain and good life throughout your life. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, sir, for the inspirational Yoga Day address. And we promise you that from our side, we'll continue to strive to keep the flag of SBV flying high through salutogenesis, Yoga Chikitsa, and the integrative complementary medicine institute and salutogenesis institute that has come up. With your blessings, we'll definitely take it forward, sir. I now request our Vice Chancellor, sir, to honor Yogacharya Sridharan, sir. And this is a special honor because we are giving, it is our privilege, our blessing to be able to give this Lifetime Achievement Award. And I request our Vice Chancellor, sir, to bestow this Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of all of us to Yogacharya Sridharan, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's our privilege now to honor and give a small memento of our great gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Honoring our respected registrar, sir, with a memento. We also have, I request our Vice Chancellor, sir, to honor our respected speakers with a special memento for, again, Sridharan, sir. Requesting Nritya Jagannathan ji to please come and receive a memento from our Vice Chancellor, sir. Dr. Vinaij Chandraji from Indica Yoga, Bangalore, Nritya Jagannathan ji is Director Yoga Studies at KYM Chennai. Vinaij Chandraji, Director of Indica Yoga in Bangalore. And Dr. Subramaniam ji, Director of Adhyatma Yoga. Recently, he is also become principal of a new center started by the Pyramid Organization with Brahmarishi ji. And for Devasena Bhavanani, who will be part of our panel discussion this afternoon.
Now we need to honor our organizing chairman, our director citer with this memento.
Organizing secretary, Dayanidhi, you cannot escape, right? He's done all the hard work. Give him a big round of applause. He is one-man army for CITER. All the work, designing, organizing. So really, really amazing. We are truly fortunate to have him with us. Sir, your blessings for Dayanidhi, sir. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to acknowledge the support we are constantly receiving from the Kasturba Gandhi Nursing College. I request Renuka ma'am to please come, and I request our Vice Chancellor sir to honor her with a memento on the occasion. As I said, the first nursing institution to have yoga as part of the curriculum, thanks to the efforts. And our most dear Uma ma'am, principal of AHS, where yoga and yoga therapy is part of an allied. They have an elective as part of all the students in the allied health sciences, reaching each and every student of SBV, right from grassroots level. Thank you very much, sir. I now call upon Yoga Chemmal Dayanidhi to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone, to the one and all present here. Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. I.V. Basavareddy sir, respected Vice Chancellor, Professor S.C. Parija sir, and all the participants. It's such an honor for me to get an opportunity to thank you all our dignitaries. On behalf of CITER of Sri Balaji Vidyapith, I extend a warm welcome to the people in the gathering. I would like to express my gratitude to all the esteemed delegates of the International Convention, International Yoga Therapy Convention, for their presence and contribution to make the convention a great success. I extend my gratitude to our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. I.V. Basavareddy, Director, Morarji Desai National Institute, New Delhi, to take out time from his busy schedule to grace this event. A special thanks to Professor S.C. Parija sir, Vice Chancellor, Sri Balaji Vidyapith University, providing immense support to make the SBV Yoga Mahotsav, the International Yoga Therapy Convention, a successful manner. And we thank Sri B.S. Sarma sir and Sridharan sir, Professor Srinivasan sir, for inspiring and encouraging us with your words on this special day. And a special thanks to the principal of Nursing College, principal of AHS, and all the constitutional institutes of Sri Balaji Vidyapith for giving a wonderful support to make this event in a wonderful manner. And I thank the management, personal department, IT support to make the event successful. And I must thank the organizing team, volunteers for working hard for the past few days to make this event SBV Yoga Mahotsav in a successful manner. And thank you everyone once again for making it a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dayanidhi. I now request everyone to rise for the national anthem. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I request everyone to join us at Saiter for the lunch, and we'll be back here to start the session at 2 o'clock with a talk by Subbu Bhaiya on Bhakti Yoga. Thank you, everyone. Namaste, Dhanyavad, Nandri Vanakkam.
Thank you, sir.